Hey YouTube, it's your girl Chic from Chic Say What. I am welcome, Starlights. Welcome to the party. I'm back. I just completed a live and I talked about our dear brother, Jalen Walker. He was shot and killed by the Akron police on June 27th, and the release of the footage from the police cam and y'all is on and popping out there in Akron, Ohio. So definitely check out that live I just completed. But while I was on there, one of my viewers mentioned that there was a mass shooting that like just took place. So I'm like, okay, the streets are hot. As usual, you know when it's a holiday weekend, it is what it is. It's like a holiday happens, and it's like the next day I just hear about the fallout from the holiday or the fallout from the night before or the weekend. So same madness, different day. That is what's going on. So I'm gonna share. I haven't even, y'all will do this live together because I haven't even explored this situation with this mass shooting on my own because I legit like just learned about it. So I'm like, okay, let me go on live and we can do it together. If any of you happen to catch this live as you're coming in, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. But I want to get into this mass shooting and learn what happened because, like I said, I don't know anything about what happened. You know, one of the viewers on my other live told me about it. So I want to just hop over and just learn more about it. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into it together as we do over here. I hope you all are having a wonderful, safe 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, there are many people who are not thus far and who have not. And it's unfortunate, but I want to just go ahead and cover those stories for those unfortunate cases to give light to them. So we've hopped over to the Chicago Sun-Times. It says mass shooting at Highland Park, 4th of July parade, multiple people shot. A Sun-Times reporter saw blankets placed over 3 bloodied bodies. Other people running were visibly bloodied. Police told police, everybody disperse, please. It's not safe to be here. So like I said, just in Akron, Ohio, they canceled their 4th of July little situation they were supposed to have today. They were like, nope, we got too much going on out here with the rioting and, you know, the investigation of a shooting that resulted in the death. It's just a lot. So this is a town that did not cancel their festivities. And you know, during the festivities, things just went left and somebody got to popping off. So we're going to get into it. Here's a picture of this parade. Let's see. It says 4th of July parade goers run for cover after gunfire was heard at the parade Monday morning. Like, Lord, I'm like, Lord, it ain't even dark yet for the fireworks to be popping off and folks popping off. And you know, who just expect, you know, when you go on, and that's a, you know, a parade is a family environment. You just look at this man with his baby in a stroller. You got the people on the truck playing the little mute. Like, who expect for a crazy Charles or crazy Luke to just get popping? You know, you just don't expect that. You don't, like, this world, I tell you. So let's go on and see what this article says. It says the Highland Park 4th of July parade ended in panic when shots were fired about 10 minutes after the parade kicked off at 10 a.m. So they got it on and popping like out the gate, y'all, within the first 10 minutes. So hell, at that point, hell, how many people you seen going through the parade at that part within the first 10 minutes? So it says, goes on to say, Monday striking an unknown number of parade goers and sending hundreds of people running for safety. Multiple people were shot. Chicago Sun-Times reporters saw blankets covering 3 bloodied bodies and 5 other people wounded and bloodied near the parade's reviewing stand. Lord, fix it. Several witnesses said they heard multiple shots fired. One witness said he counted more than 20 shots. Miles Zerminski, a Highland Park resident, told the Sun-Times, I heard 20 to 25 shots, which were in rapid succession. So it couldn't have been just a handgun or a shotgun. Y'all, that sound like, y'all remember that shooting in Las Vegas some years back, and there was like a concert or something going on, and somebody from like afar, like, and I guess I think it may be on top of a building, and the building was like shooting at the people. Like, this is kind of giving me that type of vibe when that popped off. And I don't even know whatever happened to that guy. I don't know if he was killed on scene or like they shot and killed on site or what, but it was just a big thing when, people just at a concert and it just kind of went left, and it resulted in just people just losing their lives. And that one hit home too, because just like the last case I said, with the Akron, Ohio, my husband was born there. And then with this Las Vegas shooting that I'm just now describing, if you guys can recall that one, I have family there too. That's where my mother was born. So I'm from California, so I'm from the West Coast. So these shootings, y'all, it's too close to home for me. It's just like, oh, can we all just get along? It's just too much. But at the same time, it's like things that are, I guess when you hear about these things that happen, you're not surprised, unfortunately. It's just a reminder of just how messed up things are, and just how unsafe you can feel just today, just when you leave your house, or even sitting in your house in some neighborhoods where things happen and something bullets go flying through the window. It's just different times, crazy times. And it's just like, can you really feel safe regardless of what your economic status is? Because we hear about people getting taken out from all social economic classes. So it's just like a lot of it ain't even really even a money thing. A lot of times it's just people are just unbalanced. There's just a lot going on in this world. A lot of people are sick. So the article goes on to say Zamorinsky said that after the shots at the Central Avenue around Second Avenue in downtown Highland Park, he saw people in that area that got shot, including a woman covered with blood. She did not survive. So let's play this clip right here. Hopefully you guys will be able to hear it. Let me see. Let me turn the sound off since it's playing. You see the people running. So that was very short. So it just, listen, them people like, listen, I'm getting on. It don't take much for me to see. Y'all see, I didn't supposed to just skip it. And then so they running, and y'all notice how the people in the band, they still playing. Like, I don't like, did y'all not hear what them other people heard that took off running? But y'all see what they looking like. Y'all know when it come to us, listen, you see somebody running, you don't even know why they running. You just start running too. And then when y'all get to safety, y'all, okay, now what? Why were we running again? Y'all know we be on that kind of tip. But as you see, that's not the tip they be on, because they still was like playing, like, y'all know, like in that scene Titanic, when the ship was going down, and they were still playing that music, and people died. Again, that wasn't no movie with us in it. I don't think it had not a one colored person in that movie. But y'all, we give off, we don't roll like that. But let me go ahead and get back to this article, y'all. I just had to add that part because it just seemed crazy to me that they running, and then they just driving towards where they running from, and they just playing music. I'm sorry. So, article goes on to say police were telling people, everybody disperse, please. It is not safe to be here. As they fled the parade route on Central Street in downtown Highland Park, parade goers left chairs behind. Like, listen, Becky Ann, like, yo, we're gonna leave these chairs, baby strollers, and blankets as they sought cover, not knowing what happened. They did right. Even as people ran, let me see, a klezmer band, seemingly unaware of a gunfire, continued to play. Y'all, that's that stuff I'm talking about. They threw that in the article. They was like, what the hell? It was like, So police were patrolling the area with rifles. What they say, the show must go on. Let me carry back on. I'm sorry, y'all. Police were patrolling the area with rifles, apparently looking for whoever fired the shots. Adrienne Drell, a former Sun-Times reporter, said she was sitting on a curb along Central Avenue watching the parade when she saw members of the Highland Park High School marching band start to run. So Them kids is out the hell what's going on. We getting the hell up out of it. Listen, the kids understood the assignment. They didn't understand the assignment. These people playing this band, but the kids understood the assignment. They said, the hell with this damn parade. I'm trying to live. And I just got accepted into my college too. Stop it. Stop it. Article goes on to say, let me see. Quote, go to Sunset, Drell said. She heard the students shout, directing people to nearby Sunset Foods. A man picked her up off the curb and urged her to get out, Drell said. There's panic in the whole town, she said. Everyone is just stunned beyond belief. She ran across the nearby parking lot with other people who had been watching the parade. Quote, it was a quiet, peaceful, lovely morning. People were enjoying the parade, Drell said. Within seconds, to have that peacefulness suddenly ripped apart is scary. You can't go anywhere. You can't find peace. I think we are falling apart. Y'all did not say that. Listen, Becky said, listen, we can't even go outside like this. Don't matter if it's in Keisha neighborhood, Becky neighborhood, John Luke's neighborhood, Antoine neighborhood. Like, it's just madness. It's just the climate of the world. It's just like everybody just on 10, hell, on 20, on 100. It's just like everybody got anxiety, popping some type of pill or need to be taking something to calm their nerves. And you just got stuff like this popping off. Here's a picture of, look, all these empty chairs where people got the hell on. It says terrified parade goers fled Highlands Park's 4th of July parade after shots were fired, leaving behind their belongings as they sought safety, as they should. They understood the assignment. Listen. So what he got in his hand? What he got his chair? Did he go back and get his stuff? Or he like, well, I'm getting hell on, but I'm taking this chair that I just bought that I didn't pay him $50 from Academy Sports from. So we ain't leaving it. I don't know the story, y'all. I'm just kind of coming up with what his story was because he got his stuff in his hand. The police said they would provide an update around noon. The parade had a heavy presence of police and fire vehicles. Listen, y'all see that blood? Oh my God. Y'all, that look like it's blood. Is it blood and gut? Like, don't that look like body parts mixed in? That don't like no regular blood. Like, it was stuff that came out with that blood. I hope they are right. I don't think it didn't say just yet if there were any fatalities. I think it just talked about people being shot. So we don't know, I don't think I read about, like, I don't think we know about, like, if anybody kind of life was taken. I hope not. But that wasn't looking too good down here, with that blood or whatever. It looked like more than fluids. I tell you that. I just tell you that. So it's not a lot going on with this, but let me see before I jump off here if there's anything else. But this just hit at 11:29. So this was not even 2 hours ago. So let's see if there's any more information out here that I can share with you. Otherwise, I may have to come back at a later time to report, if there's more to come of this story, such as, any fatalities, anything like that. Because y'all know how that go a lot of times when it get on and popping. Over the next several days, it just gets worse and worse, as we learn about the fallout or the impact of it all. So let me see. Let me do a quick search. Again to see if there's anything else out there to be learned about this situation, or see if we know anybody or if they have anybody in custody. Okay. So let me share my screen. I just found another page. They got some news clips. So y'all, we're gonna hop on over there. We inspect the gadget today. We own it today. As we're inside being safe, like we gonna cover the foolishness that's going on outside while we're inside. So it says multiple hurt in Highland Park shooting along parade route. Sources say 4th of July events canceled. So this was just a few minutes ago. This was reported at 1:08. It's right now 1:15 p.m. Eastern time. So let's see. what they're saying. There's no sound to it, but so it looks like, excuse me, they're just spanning. So this is, oh, okay. I didn't realize this, so this is live. They're just spanning over the town, I guess, in a helicopter. I'm assuming a helicopter. I don't know if it's a drone or whatever, so we can see the town. It looks like, they got the situation under control. Everybody has left. We'll see if this article talks about anything else. Okay, here's something down here. Let's see what they're saying here.
We are staying on top of this breaking news. There has been a shooting at the 4th of July parade in North Suburban Highland Park. Multiple people have been shot, and police are asking people to stay back, stay away from the downtown Highland Park area. We have crews on the way, and we will be bringing you a report coming up soon.
Okay, so the story is still unfolding, y'all. We early on this. Let's see. Silly 1717, you said 1 to 4 deceased from what I've read, heard 9 shot total. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I hadn't come across that yet. I'm going to jump back on this article I was showing because I want to read it and see maybe if it has some more information in it. Maybe that information that you just shared. It says, sources said the person could be shooting from the top of a high building. The parade route was near Central Avenue and 2nd Street. The parade was stopped about 10 minutes after it kicked off. At 10 a.m. when shots were fired, striking an unknown number of parade goers and sending hundreds of people running for safety. Let's see. The Chicago Sun-Times reporter saw. So that's so I'm trying to see if we find anything new. It's not saying in this one the information you have as far as with the people. People being deceased and things like that. Like what I said, like that blood I saw, it looked like it was more than blood mixed in with that red. So it just didn't look good at all. One witness said it looked like a war zone. Like that's what that spot, like I said, it didn't look like something explode. Like it wasn't just no leaky blood in that spot that I showed on the last news clip. So it says one witness said it looked like a war zone and he was almost trampled in the stampede after the shots were fired. Quote, this should not happen in our country. No, it shouldn't. Let's listen and see if this is anything new.
We continue to follow this breaking news in the north.
Okay, so that looks like that's the same news clip we watched. Someone said, quote, we heard gunshots that I kind of thought was fireworks, which I can hear that because sometimes I'm like, okay, is that firework? You're like, because sometimes, you can hear, especially when it's a certain time of the season or a year where, it's Memorial Weekend, Labor Day, what else you got? Veterans, like all those, those holidays that deal with like recognizing like veterans and things like that. Like you'll hear things popping off. So sometimes, you're like, okay, what's that? Is that fireworks or, is that a gun? So I know that feeling. I've definitely asked that, plenty of times. So they were like, we heard gunshots that I kind of thought it was fireworks. Then all of a sudden, this wave of people starts running back towards us, screaming, crying, hysterical, carrying their kids, Morrison said. Police were patrolling the area with rifles. The parade had a heavy presence of police and fire vehicles. U.S. Rep. Brad Schneider said he and his campaign team were gathering at the start of the parade when the shooting began. Quote, my team and I are safe and secure, he said, hearing of loss of life and others injured. My condolences to the family and loved ones. My prayers for the injured and for my community. and my commitment to do whatever I can to make our children, our towns, and nation safer. Enough is enough. So they are saying, there were lives, or at least a life taken, people injured. It hasn't said a number yet that I've seen. Highland Park officials asked residents to avoid the city's downtown area as police respond to an incident. Lakeshore Country Club is also locked down. The city of Highland Park provided very little information on the incident in a Facebook post just before 10:45 a.m., only saying the city's fourth fest had been canceled. Akron's canceled. Highland Park's canceled. Lord, y'all think we gonna see any more cancellations before the day is over with? Lord Jesus, fix it. The village of the Deerfield tweeted at 10:50 a.m. that there had been a shooting in Highland Park and Deerfield's Family Days at Jewett Park was canceled. Evanston canceled its parade and fireworks. So it's multiple locations that have canceled their events today. Article goes on to say, out of an abundance of caution, today's Skokie 4th of July parade has been canceled due to the shooting incident at Highland Park. 4th of July parade, the Skokie community agrees with our neighbors in Highland Park. Skokie officials said a decision will be made later today regarding today's fireworks at Niles West High School. So as the day progressed, and I guess they determine the seriousness of the situation, it will then be learned if other scheduled events will go on as planned or if they will also be canceled. Morton Grove also canceled its parade. Governor J.B. Pritzker tweeted, "My staff and I are closely monitoring the situation in Highland Park. State police are on the scene and we have made all state resources available to the community. We will continue working with local officials to help those affected." Highland Park had a number of 4th of July events scheduled for Monday. Illinois State Police were on the scene as well. They called the incident an active shoot situation just before 11:25 a.m. So I haven't read anything about them having the person in custody. So it's like, okay, there was this shooting and it's like, okay, well, we don't know who did it, but they did something. So we got to take precautions, shut the show down. So that's what we got here. Let me see. Bernie Nellis says, where is Highland Park? It just said in this article, let me go back because I had been reading. I'm like, where's Highland Park? But it's in Chicago. Yep, it's in Chicago. I finally learned where it was down here when it said Illinois State Police were on the scene. So, yes, Chicago, Illinois, or Highland Park, Illinois. I guess it's near Chicago. Guess maybe looks like a small town, like a small country type town. Looks very rural, like definitely don't look like, the Chicago we're used to seeing, the Shy. But yeah, it's in Chicago. The story is unfolding. Y'all, it's on and popping. Just even looking over here with shootings just from this weekend. This is saying 55 shots, 7 killed, July 4th weekends, Chicago PD. So let's click on this. So this is still
And Samantha, that 10-year-old boy is recovering from getting hit by gunfire multiple times. He was sitting in his bedroom when he suddenly felt pain and realized he was shot.
Mm-hmm.
It happened at around 10:40 last night in the 600 block of West Englewood. Police say as the 10-year-old boy was in his bedroom, he felt pain. Authorities discovered several rounds entered through the siding of the home, hitting the boy 3 times by gunfire. He was rushed here to Comer Children's Hospital, where he's listed in good condition.
It's as if no matter what you do, something is going to happen, and something is going to happen to a child.
In Parkway Gardens in the 6500 block of South MLK Drive, 5 people were shot, including a 17-year-old. All of them them are expected to be okay. Early this morning, a 39-year-old man was shot in the leg in an attempted robbery in the 400 block of East Erie. Street pastor Diamond Price says sadly his team expects the violence is not over yet.
I would hate to say that we wait for it or we expect it. 4th of July weekend has proven itself to be what it's going to be. The numbers aren't what last year were. However, that is not a sign of it getting better. That's just a sign of the ebb and flow of violence.
The holiday weekend, Samantha, still not over. Already over 55 people, or 55 people, I should say, were shot. 7 of them were killed. Back to you.
That's what I'm saying.
Samantha.
It's like, as I made a comment before, I don't know if it was on this live or my last live talking about the shooting in Akron, Ohio. You can even still be in your house and still have something happen to you. That young boy, that baby, said he was just sitting in his room in his bed and he just started feeling pain. He was shot 3 times, and it's a blessing that the report is that he is doing well at the hospital. He is recovering. How often do you hear that be the case when you hear about someone getting shot? Birdie Nelly said, okay, got that now. Thank you. You're welcome. Birdie Nelly said, was hoping it wasn't near DC and the convoys. That shit roads to DC down a while ago. Come join the 1776 restoration movement. You said that shuts the roads down to DC. That shuts roads to DC down even. Okay. So no, it wasn't there. You know, y'all know it be on and popping in Chicago. So this is just what was reported as of today at 12:47 p.m. It's 1:27 right now. So, you know, if you see right now, it's saying shootings, 55 dead, shot, 7 killed. As of this time, you know that these numbers is 55 is definitely going to go higher than that. And unfortunately, that 7 is going to go higher because we're still in the 4th of July weekend. And it's just sad that, you know, when you think about holiday weekends, the extension of a weekend, you just think about having good times, getting with family, loved ones. Many of us are taking a break from work, but then also what's a part of the extended weekend experiences is casualties, fatalities, all kinds of stuff, car accidents. Like, it's just a lot that goes along, you know, that also from a negative aspect that comes along when we are celebrating just during the holidays, extended weekend. You know, it's sad that it kind of has to be a part of the situation. Let's go on and check out this article some more. So it says at least 55 people have been shot, even fatally, in 4th of July holiday weekend shootings across the city of Chicago, police said. Last year, 19 people were killed and more than 100 people were shot over the long 4th of July weekend. And my instinct was telling me, as I was seeing this 55, I'm like, something tell me it's going to hit over 100. You know, I just feel like it's going to exceed that number because today is the actual 4th, and I just feel like it's going to be on and popping. Seeking to prevent a similar surge in violence this year, Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown had said ahead of the long weekend that people should expect to see a heavier police presence in their neighborhood. So, boy 10 wounded inside bedroom after shots fired outside of Inglewood home. So we saw that clip with the street pastor talking, you know, may the Lord be with him as he's walking the streets in these neighborhoods, these tough neighborhoods, as he's trying to help people within the community, because he don't have to do that. Oftentimes, I'm sure that's just something voluntary he's doing. It's not a paid gig or anything like that. And he's putting his life on the line to be a potential savior of somebody else. Article goes on to say a man and another gunman were shooting at each other at 10:50 p.m. excuse me, in the 2200 block of South Wentworth Avenue, police said. A 24-year-old woman was struck in the torso and was taken to Stroger Hospital, where she died due to her injuries. A second woman, Y'all, I don't know if y'all familiar with the gun memorial. I learned about the gun memorial from this other YouTuber I follow on Leandria TV. And it's a site, and I can go on over there and show you after we get through this article. But it's just a site dedicated for people who died as a result of gun violence. And people go over to that website and, and just continually add pictures, profiles, news links of people who have been victims or are victims of gun violence. Like, these are people who didn't make it. Like, so if you got shot and made it, like, you not over there. But like, if you got shot and you didn't make it, like we just read, this 24-year-old woman was shot and killed. Best believe she'll make it over there to the gun memorial. Her story, it may even be over there now. Just depends. Like I said, I think anybody can kind of go up there. I think one person manages maybe putting the story up, but then the pictures, anybody can kind of go over there and update it and put a picture, I guess, with it. But we'll go over there. But it's very disturbing and enlightening all at the same time, because it make you really see how serious gun violence is within our community. And it doesn't just show Black people, but of course, most of the people who are dying as a result of gun violence are Black. And a large number of them, too, are Black women. This article also goes on to say a second woman, 42, was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center with a gunshot wound to her hand. Police said she was listed in good condition. One of the gunmen, 38-year-old man, was shot. A 38-year-old man was shot in the buttocks and was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where he was in critical condition. So this woman, fortunately, she survived, but the 24-year-old woman did not. A young woman at that, 24. Article goes on to say 3 people were shot, one fatally, in the backyard early Sunday morning in Grand Crossing in Southside. The attack occurred during a violent 8-hour span in Chicago, during which at least 16 people were shot, 2 fatally, late Saturday into early Sunday. Y'all, listen. Lord, that's a lot. So let me hop over, because as I talked about this gun memorial, let me take you over there so you can see what I'm talking about. Because I don't think that article mentioned what the 24-year-old lady's name was. But let me share my screen. Let me see. Let's see if it'll say her name. A man in the gun. Let me see. We said a 24-year-old woman was struck in the torso and was taken to Stroger Hospital. So it's not saying her name, but I'm going to share my screen to show you this gun memorial. And the gun memorial, let me get my screens together, y'all. Let's flip over to the gun memorial. You see what I'm talking about? This is the gun memorial. So anybody who's died as a result of a gun violence, this is where they end up. Real people, not justice. Over 100,000 gun violence victims and counting. Click the victim and learn more. So typically, I think like when I see people kind of up here at the top, they were more like the most like recent cases. So this Kimora Johnson young lady, we click on her picture. It normally, let's see, no, it's lagging. Okay, here we go. Kimora Johnson, age 18. So she died as a result of gun violence on July 2nd. So that was Saturday. So this is kind of what it looks like, over here when people make it to the gunmemorial.org. This is just not where you want to go or where you want to aspire to make it. Mariah Faith Moss, age 21. Also July 2nd. So like I said at the top, I think they're normally like your most recent incidents. Little young boy, Akai Stilo, age 3. Yeah. So this was on Saturday, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this is Carrie's. Not sure how she said her last name, but also Saturday. So these are like your recent, but you can scroll through and see other people. And when I talk about like where you don't see a picture, that's just whoever posted information didn't have a picture at the time. But I believe anyone can kind of go out there. If you know the individual, you can kind of place their picture there. So, and today's the 4th. So we haven't even had people updated for what popped off as of yesterday. That's still to come. But, you know, as I say, it's mostly people from the Black community. Yeah. And deaths as a result of gun violence. So, unfortunately, like I said, this number is going to grow. You know, the day is still young for the 4th of July. And just in Chicago alone, that's just one city within the US. Like, think about all the other places in the US where gun violence, you know, takes place. Then it's a good chance they'll end up on the gun memorial. Yeah, so it's been a busy a busy weekend already. Very disturbing, enlightening. Like, it's just a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts about it all. This Highland Park situation, you know, this story is still unfolding. I'll do one more quick check before I jump off to see if anything else got updated, maybe since I've been on this live. Yeah. See what we can share with you all. Is there anything else? Because it just happened. Yeah. Let's see. That. So 9 minutes ago. Look, Wikipedia just updated it 2 minutes ago. Like, you guys, like I said, this story is still unfolding. It's very okay. So we got someone being interviewed. Let's turn the volume on.
Literally, like 1 second, we all started getting into a panic mode because as soon as I turned, I saw one of the shooters above Ross Cosmetics, aiming towards where we were, and we ducked down. I tried to grab my daughter. She slipped out of my hands twice, and the first thing I decided to do is run into Uncle Dan's.
Let me see.
And I tripped twice because of the panic mode, obviously, because at the moment you really don't know how to react or what to do, so you just try to look for a place to hide. And people were just like dunking down
to share my screen.
It was really not safe because of the shooting going on. And as soon as I got up again, because I guess I don't know if it was reloading or whatever, I was able to start walking towards, but my legs were very shaky. Walk towards Uncle Dan's, and I bumped into a 95-year-old lady. And as soon as I bumped into her, I actually pulled my arm underneath her head because she was about to hit her head, and I hurt my elbow. And then I tried to grab her as how I could, and I shoved her and my daughter into the store, and then I ran into the store, and then we started running away from the windows. And then like 5 minutes later, I started like getting like into the reality that we were getting shot at. Like, I was like in a total shock mode. My daughter was being brave, not to act scared or crying. She was actually calming me down. I saw the lady that I bumped into. I apologized to her. I hugged her, and we said that we were all going to be okay. I started calling my ex-husband, and he picked up. He arrived within like 5-10 minutes to come and get us. I called my mom, my sisters, and my family members, my husband's family members that I was there to meet up. I know that my niece got scraped, so I came to the hospital to check up on her. But I mean, I think she might be in there because I didn't really see my family in there. So
you said scrape. What does that mean?
I think because maybe when she fell, I think she just scraped her leg.
How old is she?
I think she's like 24, 25.
So as far as you know, how is she?
She's good. She's okay. They're all okay. Everybody from my family that was there are all safe. They're all okay. I thought that she was here, so that's why I came to check up on her. Since I lost her as soon as all this happened. I lost her and her husband, so I was scared for them. And my family, they're not in there, so I think they're safe at home. But I did see like the family members of the guy, obviously, that I heard that got killed or something. And now they were saying that there was actually 2 shooters. One was above Dairy Queen shooting the other way, and that person, like, it's just rumors, I guess. But I mean, as of now, I only saw one.
Now, police just confirmed that there were 16 people shot and 5 people killed. You were at a parade to celebrate the 4th of July this morning. How devastating is this to you when you thought, this was supposed to be a good time?
It's very sad. It's very sad and overwhelming because I mean you're reading about it, you're seeing news about the school shootings, mall shootings, theater shootings, and now at a public parade. I mean, what's next? The pools, the fireworks. So I mean, if people really don't want to go out, don't have to go out, just don't go out today. Like, if please everybody cancel their fireworks. I mean, it's sad that this has to happen, but it's just we don't need more people getting shot at. Like, and it's just scary how people are being able to get these guns.
One more question. Did you see anyone around you injured with apparent gunshots?
Two ladies that were standing right by us got shot in their legs that they were inside the store with because the paramedics came in and asked if there was anybody injured or wounded, and the two ladies were sitting down, so we all pointed at them and they were in a shock. They were shocked. They were like, we were all like, what happened? Like, we didn't even know what had happened. Like, we were all like looking at each other. We were hugging strangers. We were all hugging, making sure everybody was okay. Kids were getting lost from their parents, so it's like I'm hoping everybody's safe with their families now. So I mean, I did call a lot of friends that were there, making sure that they were all okay. But
Gabriella, thank you very much for your time. I'm so sorry you had to live through that. I'm happy to hear that your relative is okay.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
Thank you. That's Gabriella Martinez. Again, she describes being at the scene of the parade this morning when the gunshots rang out. She hugging strangers, making sure people and other victims were doing okay. It appears that her relative is okay, just some scrapes from falling down. But we're going to continue to stay out here outside of Highland Park Hospital to get the very latest on, people being treated for gunshots. We don't know exactly how many people are inside the hospital right now, but we hope to bring you that information soon. Reporting live in Highland Park outside the hospital, Chris Coffey. Now back to you.
Chris, thank you. Really interesting interview to hear that from her perspective, or the closest that we've been able to come to talking to a witness on the street there. Thank you. And we're glad she and her family are okay. We've heard from police that there may be a briefing to talk about what happened, and official news from them coming.
Thanks.
We hope at about 12:45-ish. We want to now turn to Dr. David Baum, who was at the parade at the time, who is joining us over the phone. Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Doctor, thank you for joining us. If you can hear me, first tell us where you were in all of this and how you're doing, and just tell us what you saw and heard. Looks like we're having some trouble with getting connected to the doctor. We're going to try that again in just a minute. But some important information that we just received from that interview that Chris Coffey just did at Highland Park Hospital. The woman that you saw, he just spoke to, saying that she saw a shooter up on top of the cosmetic store, which would be at Central and 2nd Avenue. And we just showed you video of officers across the street on top of the Gearhead Outfitters, which is just across 2nd, ostensibly trying to get a better view of what was going on. As now you're seeing this witness video of just chaos of people running, as somebody here was rolling on their camera. As you could just see all them running as fast as they can away from the parade. As you saw the people coming down the street, again, what Gabriella Martinez just told us, that just as soon as the marching band came down at about 10:05, that's when they heard the shots ringing out as the parade was just starting at 10 o'clock. And so Gabriella ran into the Gearhead Outfitters, which was just right next to that cosmetic store. You saw the officers on top of Gearhead Outfitters trying to get a better view to maybe subdue the suspect. As we're now still being told, this is an active, ongoing situation with no one yet in custody. Let's go back to Sandra Torres here, who's at a fire station in Highland Park. Sandra, what can you tell us?
Hey there, Alex. So as we mentioned earlier, we are outside of Station 33, Highland Park's fire department. This is where they brought some of the injured earlier. We just got an update that the Lake County Major Crime Task Force and Highland Park Police, they're going to be having a news conference here to provide an update. They say 12:45, so it's about 12:45 right now. We're waiting for that to happen any moment now. But of course, this comes after getting official confirmation that 16 people were shot at the parade in downtown Highland Park, and that at least 5 people are dead. That is the last information we received officially from the Highland Park Police Department. So again, awaiting for an update any minute now. This location where we are is where they brought some of the people with minor injuries. It's also where some of the witnesses have come out, since police and law enforcement have asked people to leave the area of downtown Highland Park, which is just about a half a mile from where we are right now. So that is Green Bay Road. Central Street is where the shooting actually took place. A lot of people have left that area, had come this way, and that's how we've been able to talk to some of the witnesses. But Alex, that's basically the last information we have, and we'll make sure to provide that update for you. I'm not sure if you plan on staying here with us or if you are tossing it to another reporter in the field.
Well, Sandra, that is great information. Stephen Holt joining us now here as well. Getting to see exactly for the first time what authorities plan to tell us when that briefing does come, because understandably they've been trying to just subdue the shooter, get a hold of the situation, make sure everybody's safe on the scene, and we just haven't got too much information short of, we know, 5 dead, 16 wounded, exactly what might be coming, and they'll be able to piece this together.
If you think about what investigators have to go through right now, the first case is just to secure the scene, is to make sure you get to the injured, attend to the wounded, try to ascertain exactly what's going on. But you mentioned that other aspect is, do we know where this shooter is? And that is the other part of this investigation. The other thing that the investigators have to go through right now is to try to figure out a game plan of, do they need to start closing streets down? We understand that Metra service is suspended on the UP North line because that is another potential vehicle of escape for a suspect right now. So again, a lot of things they're trying to figure out, and they will of course brief us when they have the best information available early in this process. Again, as we come on the air here at 12:46, covering this incident in Highland Park.
And now it gives us a little more context that we've gotten some confirmation about really how much damage was done in downtown Highland Park, because we've seen over and over again the video of the chairs, the bicycles, everything that people left behind, including some broken glass, and of course the large police response. And you never really know how much damage is done, because police, as they should, flood the scene. And now, but we see that how much damage has been done, as we want to turn over now again to Chris Hush, who's just west of downtown Highland Park. Chris, what can you tell us there?
Right, so now we just moved across the street from my report earlier. We're at Central Avenue now and Beverly Place. Again, you can see tons of law enforcement officers here. Obviously, people directing traffic, but also all of the ambulances, all of the first responders here, some with long guns in this parking lot. This is the media staging area, also close to where my colleague Sandra Torres was just going live from, near the fire department. You'll see this line of traffic here just because this area is completely filled with law enforcement. I just spoke with some residents across the street here, and some of them were at the parade, and I spoke to one gentleman who told me that he heard, it's the same story that we're hearing from a lot of these witnesses. They thought it was fireworks at first, and then they realized it was obviously something much worse, gunshots. And one gentleman told me that he estimated that he heard up to 20 gunshots during this parade. Of course, we do have confirmation now from law enforcement here in Highland Park that at least 5 people have died, have now passed away, and at least 16 have been transferred to hospitals. What you're looking at right now is the massive scene here near the fire department here in Highland Park, again at Central Avenue and Beverly Place. And we are expecting an update from law enforcement, from first responders here in just a few minutes. You can tell that a lot of residents, as you can imagine, are really just trying to get this information, trying to actually get confirmed information. There are a lot of rumors right now, a lot of rumors that are spreading on social media, and we're trying to get confirmation of some of this information, again, which will be held at a press conference that is supposed to take place in just a few minutes. But we are going to toss it back to the studio now. And I'm Chris Hush. We are live in Highland Park. We'll send it back to you.
Chris, thank you. We're also trying to get the most crucial information from police. Is there still a danger? Where is this shooter or shooters? And Have they been subdued, or are they in the process of that?
You mentioned this earlier, Alex, and the idea of flooding the zone. We can see from some of this video we're getting from the scene, you see officers from a number of different police departments along the North Shore, Illinois State Police, it looks like county sheriff, county police there as well. I mean, this is clearly a case where all law enforcement efforts that can be allocated to this are being allocated as we speak right now as they try to figure out where this suspect is.
We want to go now to Dr. David Baum joining us by phone, who was at the parade when this happened. Doctor, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got you, Doctor. Thank you. Tell us what you saw and heard as you were there in downtown Highland Park this morning.
So I was a couple hundred feet east of two areas, the two areas that received most of the casualties. That was within the shot from the rooftop. The shooter had a direct sight on in front of a store called Uncle Dan's, and across the street there was a pancake restaurant. That is where the majority of the people that I saw sustained gunshot wounds.
Doctor, did you see the shooter when this was going on?
No. I was 200 feet away, fortunately, with my family. God forbid for those people that were sitting ducks in those two places.
So
we heard the howitzer-like gunshots. People thought for about 5 seconds that it was fireworks until people started screaming, bodies down, and then everyone started running.
Doctor, where did you find a safe place to hide at that point?
I didn't. Doctors don't necessarily use the best judgment when there's a crisis, and I sort of stayed back a little bit where I was. And then when I heard that the gunshots were over and I saw people running to help the people who were down, that's what I did. I mean, the people there were 6 people who I saw who were horribly injured from the gunshot. I mean, the gunshot wounds that these people sustained are like war injuries. I've never served, but I've been in emergency rooms and I've seen horrific things. The bodies that I saw, it was not an image that anyone who's not a physician would have an easy time processing.
How about people attending to the injured?
Well, there were paramedics. There was a woman who was a nurse. There was a friend of mine, Lauren Schechter, who's a plastic surgeon. There was an ER doctor from Highland Park whose name I don't know. He was helping. And everyone was we were trying to start IVs. We were helping move people. We're not heroes. We're just people who, whatever, we stuck around. I mean, thank God the guy, ran and took off. But, I mean, the people who we helped were not the life-threatening ones. There were people who were immediately killed with horrific gunshot wounds.
And Doctor, that's the next thing I was going to ask is, as best you could tell, you said the shooter then ran away. I was going to ask, did police open fire on this person?
No,
were they chasing him? He just ran away?
He was on a rooftop is what I heard. I don't know anything more than everyone kept on saying he was up on a rooftop. Half a block away from where he, laid aim on people in two particular places. That's up to them to figure out. We were helping the people who needed IVs, who needed to be moved for the ambulance. We were just told, bring people here who could not move. We helped carry people over to another staging area where the ambulances were picking them up.
Doctor, just to slow the tempo down on this, I can't help but imagine you're at a 4th of July parade, enjoying the festivities on Independence Day at 1 second. The next, you're treating victims, describing wounds that are related, akin to war wounds. How are you beginning to process all this?
You know what? I'm not sure. Right now, I'm just, a little overwhelmed that, my kids, my grandson was there. If we were in the wrong place, I mean, I could have lost my family too. I sympathize with anyone. I mean, I think a lot of the injuries that I saw of
Yeah.
people who had salvageable injuries were gunshots to legs, to wrists.
Yeah.
To,
Doctor, I
you know,
apologize to interrupt you, Doctor, but and thank you for giving us the insight of what you witnessed today, as horrific as it
All right,
was.
folks, we're going to get
to a
started.
news conference
There's
to
going to be
get the
3
latest information
primary
now.
speakers to begin. First is going to be Commander Chris O'Neill. That's O'Neil. He's a commander with the Highland Park Police Department. He was the incident commander this morning. We'll also have Mayor Nancy Rotering. That's Rotering, the mayor of Highland Park. And I will be speaking on behalf of the Lake County Major Crime Task Force. My name is Chris Covelli, Covelli. And we'll start with Commander O'Neill.
Hello, my name is Commander Chris O'Neill. First and foremost, we're all grieving for the families and friends who lost loved ones today, those injured, and everyone impacted by this horrific, senseless, random act of violence. I served as the incident commander on scene. I was present at approximately 10:14 when this started. There was an active shooter incident that occurred in downtown Highland Park during our 4th of July holiday parade this morning. This was an active incident, and all individuals are still urged to shelter in place at this time. Highland Park Police and numerous federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies are searching for the suspect. The suspect is currently described as a male white, approximately 18 to 20 years old, with longer black hair, a small build, and wearing a white or blue t-shirt. A firearm has been recovered from the scene. We have secured the perimeter around downtown Highland Park and are continuing our searches. At this time, 24 people have been transported to Highland Park Hospital. 6 are confirmed deceased. Anyone with video, photos, or other evidence are urged to contact Highland Park Police Public Safety Dispatch at 847-432-7730. We will provide a tip line. This information will be in short order. Thank you.
This morning at 10:14, our community was terrorized by an act of violence that has shaken us to our core. Our hearts go out to the families of the victims during this devastating time. On a day that we came together to celebrate community and freedom, we're instead mourning the tragic loss of life and struggling with the terror that was brought upon us. While we've all felt the burden of this terrible act, I want to pause and thank the first responders who ran towards the danger to render aid during this active shooter situation. We saw individuals who responded selflessly and put themselves at risk to save others. We've had an outpouring of support from federal, state, county, and fellow municipalities of resources and offers of condolences and concern, and we will avail ourselves of everything that they offer to us immediately. At this point, we know that 6 people have lost their lives, and we are grieving for them and their families, members of our community who came out to celebrate together and instead faced this terror. Another 24 have been transported to the hospital. Multiple agencies, including the FBI and state police, are working with our local authorities, and the governor has offered his full support. What we know at this time is this is an active situation, and we urge everyone to remain indoors and be on high alert, but remain calm. Please contact your loved ones and ensure that they're safe, and let them know that you're safe as well. This situation, as you know, is evolving rapidly, and we will continue to update you as we gain information and stabilize the situation. Thank you.
So from a scene management perspective, at this point, it is still a very active scene. Highland Park Police Department is leading this investigation, as well as the apprehension efforts into the offender involved here. As the mayor said, as the commander said, we're asking everybody stay indoors, stay vigilant right now. This person is not identified. By all means, at this point, this appears to be completely random. So with that, there have been questions that have been coming in. Are events safe tonight? That's up to each individual community to assess on their own, make that determination. But no, this person is not yet in custody. We have hundreds of police officers out here, as the mayor said, from the FBI, the state police, other federal agencies. We have SWAT teams that are going door to door as well. Anybody with any video surveillance is strongly encouraged to contact the Highland Park Police Department so we can take a look at that and it can be useful in our investigation. The FBI is working hand in hand with the Lake County Major Crime Task Force right now, processing the scene. It will be a very methodical processing of the scene, and an investigation has commenced and is underway. We're going to do our very best to provide briefing updates every 30 minutes to an hour if we can. We will keep the community informed. And with that, we thank you for covering this and sharing this information. And again, very sad day here. It was a rifle.
Do you have any information on where the suspect could be right now? Is he at all barricaded?
There is no indication he's barricaded anywhere or has any hostages. That has been kind of circling around. There is no indication of that. Investigators are very, very quickly working to try to identify who this person is and try to figure out where he's at. So it does appear he was shooting from a roof. The roof that he was shooting from, I don't have that information right now. So right now there's multiple agencies. Highland Park Police is leading the initial incident response. The Lake County Major Crime Task Force is working directly with the FBI on forwarding the investigation, of course, working with Highland Park Police detectives. They're very involved and they will be point throughout all of this. Not information I can release just yet.
Do you have any evidence he had more than one weapon on him?
Not information I can release just yet. But we would still consider him to be armed and dangerous.
Are you confident it's only one shooter?
At this time, that's the information we have, that it was one shooter. We're still working on that. We'll take 2 more questions. Yes, sir?
Where was the gun dropped? On the roof and then he
We're not going to go into the specifics of where the gun was recovered, but a rifle was recovered.
What's the ages?
We will have more information on that. We're working with the Lake County Coroner's Office. They too are very involved in this investigation, and we will be releasing that as soon as we can. Thanks. We'll be back. Okay.
To be clear, though, it's 6 dead.
We have six confirmed deceased, and we have approximately two dozen that are seriously injured. Okay. Thank you.
So just getting that briefing wrapped up, the first briefing we've heard from officials today since the shooting started almost 3 hours ago. Most crucially, hearing that this is still an ongoing active search for the shooter who is in downtown Highland Park this morning. They have a description, but not an identity of who they're looking for. We have also heard, and there's been lots of rumors on this, that there was a barricade situation or a hostage situation. Officials telling us that is not the case, and they are still actively looking for this person and also updating the count. The death count, tragically, in this incident is now 6, with 24 injured there in Highland Park. And you're looking at a live picture here of where this all happened this
Almost
morning.
frozen in time. Look at the chairs still there on the side where people were watching the 4th of July parade. It appears a car that was probably involved still stopped there in the middle of the street. A parade route that is now a huge crime scene that police are just beginning to go through to get the latest information to figure out exactly what happened around 10:14 this morning, but also to figure out more about this suspect. And we can talk about the evidence that they do have at this point. They've got, well, actually, we're going to go back. The press conference is continuing. Let's listen.
Information.
We do have our FBI tip line up and running. It's 1-800-CALL-FBI, CALL-FBI. Thank you. Please report any and all tips.
Thank you.
Yeah, crucial piece of information there because they're still looking for this person. And if you think you see somebody suspicious or, somebody who may have fit the description of who they're looking for in this shooting, important, as you see, they're bringing out the canines here, maybe trying to pick up the scent of this person who we confirmed now from police in the preliminary information. We'd heard from a couple witnesses, but now police saying, in fact, that shooter was up on the roof in downtown Highland Park. It appears to be shooting down at people below.
A rather vague description offered at this point. Again, very early in this investigation, so they're still working every angle. Important to point out, they also asked for surveillance video. If you think about a parade, people have their cameras out, they're taking pictures, taking video of what's going on. That could be evidence in this case. It could be evidence to help them find the suspect. We saw Christian Farr just briefly there standing outside of the shot. He's standing right where we are looking here in Highland Park at the parade route. Christian, we see an enormous amount of police activity there. Just describe what is happening now and what you're seeing from your vantage point.
Yeah, Stefan, it's just increased over the time that we've been here. We've been here for about 10 minutes. I'm here with photographer Ron Zahara, and we initially were at the staging area where we saw a lot of police departments from several different areas, as far out as McHenry. We saw Northbrook, a lot of different police agencies, Illinois State Police, a lot of SWAT units out here as well, and a swarm of media, international media as well. And what you're looking at is the parade route, and you can see all the chairs along this route, but that heavy police presence. And it looks like in the distance, that's a muscle car or sports car that was used in this parade. And when those shots went off, people just abandoned this area. And you can see all of these empty chairs that are here right now. We didn't see police scrambling or doing anything or trying to search for anyone, but again, a very large police presence. We spoke via a online interview with State Senator Julie Morrison. She was actually in the parade. She was sitting in the car, not certain if it's the one that we're looking at in front of us, you know, waving. She was there with her grandchildren when she heard those shots. She was a block away when that was happening. She actually told me during that interview that she said she's done with parades and she's going to go to Springfield next week because if the federal government can't do anything about the gun issue, she wants to try to do something here in the state of Illinois. Very emotional, very shaken after this happened. Spoke to a lot of other people who just can't believe this happened here in Highland Park. This is an annual tradition. I've been here to cover it. People are usually lined along the parade route, waving to folks. This is a time for families to get together and to celebrate the 4th of July. And now this has just tarnished the 4th of July for the future. We probably have seen a majority of parades in the North Shore area canceled. Evanston canceled their parade. Skokie canceled their parade. I believe Northbrook canceled the rest of their 4th of July activities. But a very solemn moment right now as people try to figure out exactly why this happened. 16 people injured, 5 deceased. We don't have all the specifics just yet because they're still trying to find out who this shooter is. We've got that description, but still trying to find him. But a very large police presence here, asking people to stay at home, shelter, stay away from this area. I'm going to step in front of the camera right now just to give you an idea, perspective of where we are. Again, this is along the parade route. You can see that car in the distance. You can see the heavy police presence. But pretty much a ghost town when it just comes to civilians on the street right now because people are being asked to stay away from this area and try to stay safe. But we have seen officers with long guns, semi-automatic weapons, trying to figure out exactly what happened with this. So again, we have an active shooter situation here in Highland Park. That parade was going on. Like I said, spoke to State Senator Julie Morrison, who was in the parade, heard those shots go off, scrambled with her grandchildren to safety, and just wondering exactly what's going on with this investigation right now, Stefan.
Christian Farr in Highland Park. Christian, we appreciate it.
And Christian, I was hoping that if we could stay with you just for a second, can your photographer show us a little bit more of the route? Because this shot we have now, this is really the first time we've gotten a live picture of what the route was. And I know obviously this seems to be a secure area now and there seems to be no danger here, but this is the first time we've really seen where everything happened, as we could see this long stretch of chairs and we see the emergency vehicles in the distance. I believe you're along Central Avenue, Christian, which I think was the main dragway or the main route, I should say, of where this all was. And is that where the shooting scene mostly occurred, is off in the distance there where we're looking, or was it behind you a ways, just to kind of get our bearings to see where you are?
Yeah, so right now we're at Central and St. John, and it looks like we're pointing in the direction that this parade was going. I am not certain exactly where the specific shooting scene is, but I think we can kind of assume that it is probably just maybe a block or a block and a half up the street. We've got a police cruiser pulling in right now, pretty much at a high rate of speed going up here. But you can see where all the people abandoned their chairs. They probably set these chairs up long before this parade started. That's usually what happens with all these parades that happen on the 4th of July or pretty much during any big event. So, you know, you can just assume that people were scrambling when this was going on. That's what people told us that we spoke with earlier. Like I said, State Senator Julie Morrison scrambled to get out of here with her grandchildren. I believe maybe the youngest might have been 6 years old. Who were with her. So just a very scary situation, but it looks like this is probably the area where this all happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to judge from your camera perspective here and then looking at the map as well. It looks like you're about exactly a block east of where this shooting took place, just on the other side of the metro tracks there, looking towards Central and 2nd Street, which is the area of where those gunshots were fired. And as you mentioned, look at all of the chairs, the blankets, the bags, the things left behind, people trying to get that best spot to watch the parade. And sadly today, they got a front row seat to a tragedy, an awful event in Highland Park this morning at 10:14. The scene secure at this point, but clearly you can see what's left behind in the aftermath.
The scars remaining here. We've seen, similar situations. My mind goes back to Waukesha, where it was a car that barreled through the parade there and was not as much of a shooter threat, but it still is something to see when you have an occasion that's supposed to be so joyous, so normal, so carefree, and it's turned into something terrible and scarring for a whole community. And Christian was correct in pointing out that all of these, surrounding northern suburbs, and I'm sure many others in the Chicago area, we can check on that, have canceled their 4th of July festivities for today. Christian also mentioned speaking to State Senator Julie Morrison. We're going to bring her in now over the phone to talk with us. Senator, thank you so much for joining us here and giving us your time. Christian summarized a bit of your perspective during the parade and where you were and what you saw. Can you please recount that for us?
Sure. My car that was decorated, I had volunteers, I had my family, everyone walks in the parade together, 4th of July in Highland Park. It's a fun event. I had 4 grandchildren with me. They had bags of candy. We had just entered the parade route. We had just come out of the staging area when we heard shots. I was one of the people that thought they were fireworks. And until we saw the people rushing back towards us, running away from the center of the parade in the center of downtown Highland Park. Absolutely terrifying, just otherworldly. I mean, this doesn't happen in Highland Park. It shouldn't.
I can imagine that second of trying to decipher exactly what you were hearing, the sound of those gunshots. Could you estimate about how many gunshots you heard?
No, not really. Honestly, I wasn't focused on that. All of a sudden, I started just hearing them, and then we saw people rushing. I mean, there were several. I thought it was a series of fireworks. I would never have thought gunshots in downtown Highland Park. Never.
Where did you run to or find a safe place? Where was your shelter in all of this?
My personal shelter was, I was in a convertible. I got down behind got on the floor of the car, which wasn't, but that's what I did. People rushed past us, and as soon as we were able to, we turned the car around, loaded the car with as many people as we could, and got out of the area. It is really now incumbent upon all my fellow legislators to realize that we have to take some action. I mean, I have been someone who has cared very much about gun violence prevention, but it's in my backyard. It was my community. It was my people. And my whole family was put in danger because they were in a 4th of July parade. My husband, my kids, my grandchildren. It's totally unacceptable. And it's time to make those changes that we know we need to do.
State Senator Julie Morrison, thank you so much for your time. We're glad you're okay and that your family is okay in all of this. And again, we appreciate your time. It's just a horrible day in downtown Highland Park. We want to turn now to our Phil Rogers, who's joining us live from Highland Park. Phil, please tell us where you are and what you can see from your vantage point.
Alex, I'm at Central and Green Bay Road. The FBI just passing us, coming in an evidence response team. The one thing I want to tell you is it is eerily quiet here. Just a few moments ago, they lowered the crime scene tape to allow an ambulance and a fire truck in here. It's not exactly clear why the ambulances are still arriving, but that ambulance came in here probably about 8 minutes ago. I want you to look behind me here. You can just see the debris left over, frozen in time from when this occurred. You see the chairs, you see the scooters. Look over here, stroller on the ground. Here's a children's bicycle, which was decorated up for the 4th of July, still with Scotch tape from where they were doing the decorating work. Down here on the ground, water bottles, a Minnie Mouse water bottle with the name Lauren on it. Now, come with me, and we're going to walk over here, and I'm going to show you the scene down here, and I'll give you an idea of exactly where this happened. Again, we're on the westernmost part of the perimeter here. If you look over on the right here, you'll see the chairs. These are reserved chairs, probably from some of the dignitaries that were here, and then you see where people had staked out their spots. Look down here, and Matt Byrne, if you see the stop sign there on the right with the flashing red lights, that is 2nd Street, and this is the corner where all of this unfolded. Just past there is the Walker Brothers Pancake House on the right. That's where many of the victims fell. They were in front of it. It's believed that the gunshots were fired from the roof of a building across the street over here on the left, over where you see the squads. And Matt, if you can show them, a group of officers on the sidewalk over there on the left, they would be approximately where the shooting took place, it's believed, from the rooftop in that area. Now, again, the important thing to remember here is that we still have a shooter on the loose, and it's a very, very tense situation down here. We see police officers with automatic weapons coming by us here, and again, continually, officials still arriving here on the scene. It's almost indescribable to tell you how odd the situation is down here right now, because nobody knows exactly what they've got. I can tell you this. The scene that we see here right now is a scene of a moment in time that became instant panic, instant evacuation, instant triage of victims. Everything left exactly as it happened about 2.5 hours ago. So, Alex, we're trying to piece together everything. You just heard what the police said about what they've got going here in Highland Park and how the search is underway. And meanwhile, this is a very active crime scene that is still being processed.
Yeah, Phil, and thank you for that look. When we've been putting up that phone number, 1-800-CALL-FBI for any tips, because of the tension you just mentioned, this is not a resolved scenario by any means, as there is still a shelter in place. In effect, it appears the downtown area where Phil is and Christian is the only area they deem to be secure, at least right now, because they're telling many people not to even not to go outside their homes, as they still continue to look for the shooter, and they still work to identify this person because they only have a very loose description of them right now. And some of this video that we've seen that people have sent into us, just showing that chaos that Phil just described, of watching a parade go by, the marching band, 10:14, we're told this happened. The parade started at 10. And all of a sudden, everyone running in any direction they deem to be safe in that moment and in that intersection that Phil just showed us.
There's that realization that the sound you're hearing is the sound of gunshots. Remember, this is the 4th of July. We're used to fireworks, firecrackers, things going, popping and going bang. And you know, there's that moment where all of a sudden, no, this is a life-threatening situation. And you can see in the video clearly, people just got up, left everything behind, and ran for their lives. Absolutely frightening to think about that. Phil, I also think it's important to talk, Phil Rogers still there at the scene at Green Bay and Central. You notice all the officers there with long guns. We saw what appeared to be almost like an armored personnel carrier there. You know, Phil, give us the sense, I think police are almost operating under the assumption that the shooter could still be within that perimeter. Is that correct?
Alex, that's exactly right. If you're looking right now at what we're showing you, this is a police officer with a semi-automatic weapon who was just checking out the store next door. He was looking in the windows there, and now he's taken up a position here by this potted tree. And we see this kind of police presence all up and down the street here. So I think one of the unfortunate things we have here, and again, I want to show you again the officers down here working the crime scene as the FBI goes by us over here on the left. I want to show you the officers also working the crime scene. Imagine this. You have an active crime scene that has to be processed. This is where you're going to find your clues. This is where you're going to find evidence that's going to lead you to the shooter, but at the same time, the shooter is still on the loose. These officers know that they don't want to have a shot taken at them, but at the same time, this is the critical part of the investigation when evidence is gathered. And so there is just an enormous police presence down here right now. But again, I can't stress to you enough what an eerie quiet it is right now here in downtown Highland Park. Alex?
And Christian is basically 3 blocks to your east. We saw the same thing on his end with them bringing canines into your area, trying to determine if they can pick up a scent on where this person, the shooter, was. We've been told by police the shooter had a rifle that I think police were able to recover, but they also stressed to the public that this person should be considered armed and dangerous. We'd love to give you some more identifying information about this person, but we do not know any of that from police. In their last briefing, just updating the count, 6 dead, 24 injured. Shooting started approximately 10:14 during the parade downtown, and it's very helpful to get several different looks now from Christian's perspective on St. John's Sheridan Road to the east, and Phil's on Green Bay as this parade was going down Central Avenue, as it does every year.
Just think about a 4th of July parade, a happy family scene. You've got children there along the line of the sides of the parade route, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends and family gathering for Independence Day, a day that we celebrate. And sadly, we're seeing now the remnants of the chairs, the toys, the blankets, the bags left behind, people literally running for their lives when those gunshots went off just after 10:14 this morning in Highland Park.
Chris Coffey has been at Highland Park Hospital for over an hour now, talking to witnesses and gathering information. Chris, what can you bring us?
Alex, I wanted to give you more of an updated information from here at Highland Park Hospital. You just heard authorities saying not too long ago that 24 people were injured and 6 people have died. According to Highland Park Hospital, their media relations department, they are currently treating 26 people here at Highland Park, and that 5 people are being treated at North Shore Evanston Hospital. Now, the PR team says the vast majority of the people being treated suffered gunshot wounds, and the remaining people who were hurt as a result of the ensuing chaos. So we have the people who were shot by the gun, and then we have the people who got injured when just chaos erupted in those moments and the seconds following the gunshots. So the hospital went on to say that when they heard about this, they mobilized quickly, and that within 30 minutes, they had 20 additional physicians, they had more nurses, and they had other medical support staff ready to help. They also say crisis and social workers are here at the hospital, ready to assist family members and friends. So that's the latest out here at Highland Park Hospital. 24 people dead. 24 people injured. 6 people have passed away. The vast majority suffered gunshot wounds, and the remaining people who were hurt in the ensuing chaos. Let's go ahead back to you.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you. We heard that one doctor describing what seemed like injuries of war as a doctor. I mean, he's used to treating people in a hospital situation. He was at the parade watching the events and rushed in to help some of the injured, trying to get them to safety and get them back together.
Let's play you a clip from a little bit earlier. Commander Chris O'Neill from the Highland Park Police Department addressing what happened this morning.
We're all grieving for the families and friends who lost loved ones today, those injured, and everyone impacted by this horrific, senseless, random act of violence. I served as the incident commander on scene. I was present at approximately 10:14 when this started. There was an active shooter incident that occurred in downtown Highland Park during our 4th of July holiday parade this morning. This was an active incident, and all individuals are still urged to shelter in place at this time. Highland Park Police and numerous federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies are searching for the suspect. The suspect is currently described as a male white, approximately 18 to 20 years old, with longer black hair, a small build, and wearing a white or blue t-shirt. A firearm has been recovered from the scene. We have secured the perimeter around downtown Highland Park and are continuing our searches. At this time, 24 people have been transported to Highland Park Hospital. 6 are confirmed deceased. Anyone with video, photos, or other evidence urged to contact Highland Park Police Public Safety Dispatch at 847-432-7730. We will provide a tip line. This information will be in short order.
It's Commander Chris O'Neill with the Highland Park Police Department. He was the incident commander on scene, and they are the lead agency at this point, but also you see police departments from across the North Shore, state police, and the FBI joining in on this investigation into this shooting at Highland Park.
We want to take a minute to recap kind of what we've learned in the last now 3+ hours since this began. At 10:14, you're looking here at a live picture of downtown Highland Park, where the 4th of July parade was taking place this morning, starting at 10 o'clock here on this street, and due to continue through what would normally be a very joyous day in Highland Park when they have 4th Fest there in that city. We're told the shots rang out from what police believe to be a sole shooter on top of a rooftop at Central and 2nd, right in the middle of that parade route, approximately at the scene you're looking at right now. The shots continued, and we know that there had to be very many shots from that rooftop. 6 people killed, 24 hurt, a vast majority of those injured dealing with gunshot wounds. For the longest time, I should clarify, about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe more, we didn't have any information about where the shooter may have gone, who they're looking for, how many people were hurt, because police were still securing the scene and trying to get that entire area secure before they could provide that information. But we did learn that count about an hour ago, that there was, in fact, a loss of life and many people injured here in downtown Highland Park. And the search for that shooter continues right now at this hour.
Important to point out that police believe there is only one shooter involved in this, and we hear them stressing they believe this is a random event. Nonetheless, we've seen other neighboring communities cancel their 4th of July parades and events out of an abundance of caution. Again, stressing they believe this was a random shooting. This is not part of some coordinated effort involving other municipalities. But again, those towns and cities have decided to cancel their celebrations out of an abundance of caution. Here's a list of them. Evanston, they've canceled their parade. Glenview as well. Skokie. Deerfield Family Days and Parade, that is canceled as well. And Morton Grove, they have canceled their parade in the wake of this shooting.
And something we heard from a couple of witnesses before the police gave an official statement was that they thought that shooting did come from a rooftop, that Ross's Cosmetics is where a couple of witnesses identified that shooting may have come from. We saw and heard people hiding in the Gearheads, formerly Uncle Dan's, which is across the street from this cosmetics store. We saw police officers earlier today up on the roof of Gearhead trying to get a vantage point perhaps to see if they could see the shooter and if that person was still up on the roof. I believe we're still taking a live look at where Christian Farr is right now, at when Sheridan Road becomes St. John's Avenue there, just east of the crime scene, which we're looking at here. Christian, has there been any more activity since we last checked in with you?
Not much, but I mean, we still have a heavy police presence here right now. Phil Rogers described the scene perfectly, it being sort of eerie, just a very frightening scene. So we were shooting down here, and there must be some activity right now near that red ambulance, if you can kind of take a look. My photographer Ron's got a better vantage point because he has zoomed in, but as I can see some, looks like SWAT officers.
You see a little girl coming out
there right now, and you see a little girl coming out, yes, and you see some looks like some other children, and then you see those canine units as well. Not certain if they were hiding what's going on right now, but as you can see, they're coming closer to the camera right now. These children, from what I was told, there was a sort of a bike parade prior to the official Highland Park parade. So a lot of kids on bikes riding. They do that in many other communities here, probably all across the Illinois area, but especially here in the North Shore. But you can see them walking those children towards us. We're not certain what the story is just yet. But we also have officers, looks like SWAT officers, on the top of a roof. This is the Mesereau building, and they're up there, and it looks like they may have sort of a sniper rifle, maybe trying to get a better vantage point of where this person might be. And again, we've got more than 20 injured, 6 deceased. And again, we've got these kids walking towards us, not certain exactly what this situation is. At this point, if these kids were in the parade, if they were part of it, and if that's a parent, I do know there were some reports that kids have gotten away from their parents and that other people have scooped up those children to keep them safe.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Walking them towards us.
Yeah, I'm sorry to
Right
interrupt.
now.
It appears
Go
they're
ahead.
walking these children here, and I know they're stepping out of the shot right there. But you can't help but think when those shots went off and the panic that ensued, people running in every direction, that you're going to have children potentially separated from their caregivers, and now begins the process of trying to find where the adults are. Adults trying to find where their children are. I mean, that's another aspect of this we have to think about, is just the separation. When you have that moment that people are running, some people are injured, they're getting trampled over, trying to get away from this. Now begins this process. The police not only have to investigate and figure out what's going on with the shooter, but they have to reunify these families.
Yeah, and again, we don't know what the story is. But just the FBI, walking the car and walking down the street.
And we saw that point as well about the reunification with Sandra Torres pointed it out earlier when she was at the fire station, saying that people were coming up to her and coming up to firefighters saying, I'm looking for this person, I'm looking for that person. And Sandra, unfortunately, didn't have any more information than they did, trying to help them out. Let's turn now to Chris Hush, who's just west, I believe, still of the downtown. Chris, what's going on at your location?
Yeah, we are actually right in front of the Highland Park Fire Department. This is where we just saw that update from officials here on scene just a few minutes ago. And you'll recall during that press conference, they said that there were hundreds and hundreds of law enforcement officers obviously still on scene. And you can see that behind me. All of the law enforcement activity, or I should say a lot of the law enforcement activity has been gathered right here at the fire department. Again, this is a part of the staging area for everyone here. Something that I also want to point out and make sure that we get this number out here, 1-800-CALL-FBI. 1-800-CALL-FBI. At the last press conference that we heard from officials, they really wanted to get that number out to make sure that anybody who saw anything, who heard anything, will call that number and provide those tips. Again, the shooter still at large, and that's why it's large, and that's why it's important to get that information out. Obviously, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Again, we have a lot of law enforcement here who are actively working this scene, so they are very busy here. A lot of streets are still shut down in this immediate area here, and this is where we're located right now. This is where they said that they would be making updates about every 30 minutes or when they can, as this investigation develops here. We have a lot of witnesses also who are gathered in the area who are telling us that, again, they thought that this all started with fireworks. And of course, we've now learned that these weren't fireworks, these were gunshots. And we've learned that at least 6 people have been confirmed dead at this point. At least 24 people have been transported to a hospital at this point. And we should say those 24 individuals who are transported to the hospital, they have serious injuries, according to law enforcement officers that spoke at this press conference. So they are still being treated as we speak. As far as a description of the shooter, that is, still a little bit iffy here. We do know that this is a man with a small build in his 20s. And at this point, that's really as much information that was given out. And they are still trying to figure out where this individual, where the shooter may be. I should also point out that the fire department that we were at, obviously I'm saying that, there's a lot of activity here. When the shooting occurred, this was also the site where a lot of the individuals, the spectators who had minor injuries, they were brought here to be treated right here at the fire department. And we captured some of that earlier. And so, a lot of families have also been coming here to try to find out, where their family members or possible friends are. So this really is the center of a lot of that activity and those conversations. Again, we are going to remain here at the fire department because this is where we expect updates throughout the entire day, every 30 minutes or whenever those details are made available by law enforcement. So that's where we'll be. An active investigation, a very horrific and scary day for so many here in Highland Park.
Chris,
we'll send it back to you, Alex.
A really important point that you made, though, too, because they don't have a very good description of this person, is the number that we've been showing and you said, which is important to reiterate, is to provide any tips, whether it's something you see right now that could be related to the search, or even people who are now just starting to regroup and be able to provide tips or video or photos to the FBI, ways, or to Highland Park Police, ways to help them with their search today, as we're now just taking a first look from the sky as Sky 5 is now starting to head toward downtown Highland Park, as we've got many different looks from the ground, different angles of Central Avenue where this parade was going down today, both from the east and west. And very shortly, we'll have a really good look from the sky of what exactly was the route and what was left behind and where they're searching in downtown Highland Park and beyond for the suspect.
Yeah, we're getting this vantage point from Mike Lorber and Sky 5. Mike, I know you have to keep your distance away from the scene there, but just tell us the information you're hearing from up in the sky.
Stephen, let's set up the shot here. We are 5 miles north of Central and Green Bay Road here in Highland Park. There is a 5-mile flight restriction that has been set up. That's pretty much protocol in an active shooter situation. Now, earlier there were other aircraft in there, including the Chicago Police Department PH-1, that were helping with aerial surveillance of the scene. I want to add to what Chris was saying before. When something like this happens, and we touched on this during the Oakbrook Mall shooting around Christmas, it's a chaotic situation. Several people scramble. Several people, perhaps children, will hide in buildings. And because of that, unfortunately, that number that we now have, whether it be fatalities or injuries, may increase as police go in building by building. They search, they're looking for people. I know it's a few hours away from when this started, but they still may find more victims. So unfortunately, that number can go up. I saw this posted in Highland Park. We had talked about if children are lost or anyone is lost and they want to reunify, Highland Park Reunification Center. Highland Park has posted this. So if you're looking to reunify children or anyone else with parents or caregivers, the Highland Park Reunification Center, that's at the Highland Park Police Station at 1677 Old Deerfield Road. I'll repeat that one more time. Highland Park Reunification Center, that is at 1677 Old Deerfield Road. That's where people can meet away from what they describe as the hot zone. That is the area they want people to stay away from because they are still looking for a shooter at large. Several streets closed in the area. We did see a metro train roll by 5 miles north of here. Obviously, that metro line is not stopping near the Highland Park scene near Green Bay Road and Central. So here is our aerial view 5 miles away. It's still an active scene. As we've said, they are still looking for the shooter on this tragic day. We're live here. We're 5 miles north of Highland Park. I'm Mike Lorber from Sky 5.
Okay, Mike, we appreciate it. Yeah, they keep that airspace closed off because, again, you never know if that suspect is still within that area that they've saturated with police officers trying to find them. And then there's also the thought that what are other possible means of escape? Can that suspect somehow get away from the area? You mentioned the Union Pacific North Line, Mike, the metro service there. That is a service is not continuing through Highland Park right now. And we can imagine because of that assumption that the suspect could have used that as a means of escape. And also we don't want people going towards that area that is now just filled with police officers trying to look for that shooter.
Let's check in once again with Phil Rogers, who is very close to the scene of where this happened. Phil, I believe you're on Green Bay Road there, just west of where the shooting happened. Take us through what you've seen in the last few minutes.
Yeah, Alex, and I want to reiterate what Mike was just referring to about the casualty numbers. We're very careful about that because we know that these numbers are very, very fluid and that they can change at any moment. Just an enormous police presence down here, officers with automatic and semi-automatic weapons still going door to door. Let's take a look up here. If you can still see it, just get behind a tree. Matt Byrne, I don't know if it's going to come back up, but there's a drone, which we assume is a law enforcement drone, which is working the rooftops over here. And that's the approximate location where the gunman was situated. We can tell you, and to echo what Christian Farr reported just a few minutes ago, we also saw this here. FBI agent in full combat gear escorting a family who had apparently been taking refuge over in one of the buildings here and was just now being brought out and brought out to safety past the perimeters here. Again, to explain where we are, I want to show it to you again. If you look straight down the street past the black armored police vehicle there, you'll see a stop sign. That's the corner of 2nd Street. We believe that was basically ground zero of where victims began to fall. Just across the street from there is a pancake restaurant. And it is thought that the gunman was possibly on a rooftop directly across the street. That's what eyewitnesses have been reporting. So basically, you had a sniper situation with a gunman looking down and given almost free rein, completely unblocked view of the folks that were out here for a day of fun. Beautiful day. The weather was spectacular. And the parade was just getting underway when that was starting to begin. Now, just in the last few minutes, a huge armored vehicle from the North Suburban Police was brought in up here. And we told you that an ambulance was brought in about half an hour ago. The fire truck that was with that ambulance just left. The ambulance hasn't departed yet. So it isn't clear exactly why they're bringing that level of medical care in here still, even now, many hours after the shooting took place. But again, please remember one thing. We have such an active scene here right now. If you look right down the middle of the street here, and Matt will push past me here to see this, you'll see officers out there. Now, this would be right where people were falling today. And you'll see officers out there working the scene. And so, you know, one of the problems here, and we've seen this time and again, those of us who have unfortunately been to many of these events, is that especially when this is in the daytime, they're in a race against weather and a race against darkness. They're trying to gather evidence out here as fast as they can, but also as carefully as they can. But off to the west here, the skies are starting to look pretty dark. And of course, we've been predicting rain for this afternoon for the last 24 hours. They know that that's in the forecast, and they sure don't want to see a lot of evidence get washed away. The personal belongings of all of the people that were here, that fled the scene, that just evacuated instantaneously, all still here. Downtown Highland Park, always known for its bucolic setting, and now it's a scene of horror this afternoon as police continue to work this scene. Live in Highland Park, Phil Rogers, NBC5.
Phil, and you talk about the stories that each of those witnesses, adults and children, are going to come away with from this horrible day. We've been able to speak to just a few of them so far in the 3+ hours since this happened. We want to show you what one of the witnesses told us just a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I was at the 4th of July parade, probably about a half mile down the road. I knew my girls were in the parade and up here, so ran up the hill to find them, received a call from a friend saying they were safe and they needed help. And so we stepped in helping triage the injured. I've been better. It's going to take a little bit to process this.
I think it goes without saying, if you were at the parade and you haven't called and checked in with loved ones, pick up the phone and give them a call right now, because we are hearing so many stories of people that were separated, people that just ran for their lives when the shots went off. Police are still trying to go door to door, shop by shop, building by building, to figure out if there are any more people sheltering in place, hiding from the shooter, but also looking potentially for more injured people. So again, this is a very active situation, as Phil described, seeing a huge number of police officers there on the scene this afternoon.
And if you can't get a hold of them, they may have ostensibly left their phone behind. 1677 Old Deerfield Road, the reunification point in Highland Park. Christian, we're checking in with you again here as you're just on the opposite side of all of this from where we just checked in with Phil. What can you tell us about what's happened there?
Again, we're at Central and St. John. You can see that this is the parade route right here. I'm going to step out of the way so photojournalist Ron Zahar can kind of show you exactly the scene right now. And as you can see, there's a bunch of abandoned chairs on the sides of Central, and also an abandoned car that is decorated with 4th of July colors. Most likely that car was in this parade when these shots went off and people just scrambled to safety because they're not 100% certain where that shooter was. We've seen a lot of what appears to be SWAT officers in full tactical gear with long rifles. We've got officers up on the roof right now. They have not moved from that position since we've been here, which has probably been about a half an hour. Again, a very eerie scene here. All we have is law enforcement and support staff trying to control people from coming to this area because they still want people to shelter in place. They have not arrested the shooter just yet. So again, we have an active shooter situation. That shooter is not in custody. We don't have an extensive description of that person, but police are still actively trying to find that person who pulled the trigger here at this Highland Park 4th of July parade. Lots of people probably lined up for this hours before the parade was going to happen to make certain that they had a great spot. That usually happens on July 4th. We saw earlier some kids escorted by what appeared to be FBI agents coming down Central and then took them. I'm not certain exactly where. It did not look like the children were injured. Maybe they had gotten away from their parents. Maybe they were in the parade and their parents were just along the parade route. And of course, went to the fire station where a lot of people have been going to try and get back in touch with their loved ones. But again, we have an active shooter situation. The police presence just increases. We've got police officers right here blocking the street from Bannockburn. I've seen officers from Northbrook. I've seen from the city of McHenry as well. So people coming a far distance here, law enforcement personnel, and also firefighters, emergency crews coming here to help treat people and also support other officers in the Highland Park Police Department as they're investigating this. So this is still a very active situation, but very eerie on July 4th, where you expected to hear the sounds of music and kids on the street. There was a bike parade before this all started. So just a very sad situation today. Again, I talked about speaking with Senator Julie Morrison, and she had her grandchildren here with her. She talked about going to Springfield and doing something about gun laws here in the state of Illinois after this. She was outraged. She said she wasn't planning on going to another parade because now this is going to be etched in her memory.
You know, Christian and Ron just a minute ago pulled in on something I don't think we've seen before, at least on the air, and those are those officers up on the roof with that rifle with the sights. And what we can see, at least, is probably the tallest building in downtown Highland Park on top of, I think, that's a bank building. But trying to get a better vantage point, as we have not seen that. And Phil mentioned the drone that they were flying to try to get a sight of the person they're looking for. But this is something new. You see that officer there with binoculars trying to look for something, and just pulling in every resource they have to try to spot and subdue the shooter who has yet to be found. So that was an interesting detail. So our thanks to you and Ron for pointing that out there on the scene.
Just getting word, we're going to get another update from the police department around 2 o'clock. They anticipate giving us some more information as they begin this investigation. Again, a manhunt as well. And we see those officers taking position, operating the assumption that that shooter could still be in the vicinity of this massive crime scene.
We want to turn now to another witness who was at the parade when this all happened at about 10:19 this morning. Colleen Cullen. And Colleen, can you hear us?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
Thank
Can you hear
you.
me?
Yes, thank you for joining us. We're glad you're okay. Please tell us what you saw and heard this morning along the parade route.
Yeah, so we, my husband and my 3-year-old daughter and I came up to the parade this morning. There was actually a kids parade before the actual parade started, so we found a spot on the curb, and then my husband took my daughter to walk through the kids parade. They came and met us, and maybe a few minutes into the parade started, like the marching band had just passed. I heard a subsequent like pop, 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 all in quick succession, and I thought to myself, that sounds like gunshots, but like there's no way. We're sitting in Highland Park at 10 o'clock in the morning. There's no way that's gunshots. Must be fireworks. And a few seconds later, people started to run past us. I grabbed my daughter at that point and just started running.
Where do you run to? Where do you go when something like that happens?
Well, I know. We were sitting on St. John, so it was the street kind of adjoining to where I think the actual shooting happened. And I just tried to get off the parade route. You know, we just ran to, like, there's a big open air park that was right around the corner. So I just tried to run towards the park and kind of away from the crowd of people. But it really, at that first, you know, in those first couple of moments, it wasn't clear that something had happened or if the crowd just got panicked. So I was kind of asking people around me, like, is this real? Did something happen? Did you see something? And after a couple of minutes, people came by and said, this is real. Go home, get off the street. They haven't found him. And so a ton of people just kind of started walking down the street back towards the neighborhood. And as we were there, people were like listening to police scanners and saying, no, there were shots fired, like people are killed. So it was just really terrifying to hear that.
And you mentioned a detail which struck me. It's 10 o'clock in the morning in Highland Park. There's no way these are gunshots. And then they are.
Yeah.
And now you're being told to shelter in place, that you can't leave your house because this person is still on the loose. I know obviously this just happened a little more than 3 hours ago. Have you been able to start to process, or, you know, what you're going to talk to your kids about as it comes to this? Because so many children have been affected by what just happened today.
Yeah, I mean, we immediately, as soon as we got home, we jumped in the car and headed to family's house in the western suburbs because, you know, didn't really want to be staying at home today. You know, I have a 3.5-year-old. This could very well be her first memory. I don't know. You know, she was more upset in the moment about, you know, we had to leave the candy behind, but I don't know what she's going to remember about today. I know that, you know, she saw how afraid we were. And I don't know what she's going to, you know, remember about this, but I'm just so angry that, that the parents in this country have to raise their kids with this kind of fear, you know, for this to happen in a place like Highland Park on a, you know, beautiful parade, sunny, you know, morning is insanity to me. It's insanity. And the fact that, you know, we as a country and as a community allow these things to happen and don't react in a stronger way, I can say as a person who just took my daughter and ran for my life. This is not freedom. We are there for a celebration of freedom. This is not a free life to live with this kind of fear as a parent. And I do. And I can't believe that I just went through this. I cannot. I'm still probably a little bit in shock and denial that we were just at that event.
I can only imagine.
It's not okay.
How is your 3-year-old doing right now?
She's good. You know, she's with her grandmother, who she's really, really, you know, she is helps us with childcare and is really close. So we just try to get her close to family who maybe aren't as traumatized as my husband and I are, so that she is with somebody who's loving and supporting her for the moment while we kind of process what just happened.
Yeah. Coming from a place where you think you can be with family and think everything is going to be fine at the Highland Park Parade. Colleen Callanan, thank you so much. We're glad you're physically okay from all of this. And again, we thank you for your time in helping paint the picture of what it was like down there along Central. Thank you.
It's just striking to think about literally 10:14 in the morning, Highland Park, Illinois, 4th of July parade, gunshots.
And we brought this up before, how Waukesha may be the closest comparison, at least recently, even though that was a car and not a shooter barreling down the street. When we went up there and we talked to the community in the couple of days afterward, I spoke with a woman who had a nephew, I believe, who was in the marching band that the car whizzed right by. And that nephew told her, and she then relayed to me, that boy who was in the marching band said, I don't ever want to be in a marching band ever again. It just ruined his whole, understandably, experience of what it's like to be part of a community, part of a group, something that's supposed to be fun and normal, and it's totally shattered. And I expect we're going to see many more stories just like that out of this same thing.
You can hear from Colleen in her voice talking about that anger. That's another emotion that is completely understandable in the wake of a tragedy like this. The anger, the frustration. How can we let something like this happen? How does something like this happen? Just beginning to process and digest this. I mean, clearly this is going to affect a lot of people tonight. You think of the families that have lost loved ones, the families that have been injured, that have been separated, the children that have been traumatized. This is a truly tragic day for our area as we now look at police officers with long guns standing by, waiting for the latest on this now manhunt for the suspect.
And because it's likely safe to say, because this manhunt is ongoing, something we know almost nothing about, but we will find out in the days and weeks, is what, if anything, was the exact police response to the shots? Did they return fire on this person? Did they chase this person off the roof? Did this person leave on their own? Was there any resistance? That's something we're still waiting on. As you can imagine, there was some police presence, some security presence for pretty much any sort of gathering and parade like this these days, but we just don't know yet what exactly their contribution was, other than to secure the area, find the wounded, help the people who were hurt in all this. And we're awaiting a briefing in the next few minutes, we hope. We want to turn again to Chris Hush, who was at the staging area and who's been on the scene now for a couple hours in different parts of Highland Park. Chris, has anything changed there? And tell us what you've seen at your location recently.
Right, so I'm at the Highland Park Fire Department. This is where my colleague Sandra Torres was going live at all morning long, and this is where we're waiting for those press briefings to get the updates on this investigation. In fact, we were told during the last press briefing that we would get one every 30 minutes. I am told that around 2 o'clock, so just a few minutes here, about 6 minutes, we could expect another update. Of course, still a very active investigation, I should say, so that time could be pushed back, it could change, so that's something important to keep in mind. They are very busy. But speaking of being here at the fire department, this really was in the beginning of all of this. During the shooting around 10:14 this morning, this became almost like a ground zero for those with minor injuries as they were dropped off here at the fire department, and some of them treated on scene. Those who had minor injuries, of course, we now know that at least 6 people have died at this point, and about 24 others have been transferred to area hospitals. We were told during the last press briefing that some of these injuries were serious. In fact, most of those injuries are serious injuries, and we expect to get more updates on the conditions of these individuals, of course, during these press briefings. I spoke with someone across the street. You'll actually notice there are a lot of homes in this area, a very quiet town, honestly, for the most part, until today here in Highland Park. And I was speaking to some residents who have been at this parade before. There was one family I spoke with earlier who said, we used to bring our children to this parade. We were thinking about going this year. They decided not to. And of course, now this happens. You can only imagine the emotions that they're feeling. Both of you were speaking about the high emotions in this community here that is not used to anything like this happening, and they are just beside themselves. It's really difficult for a lot of them to actually speak on what happened here. So, we're just seeing a lot of people looking for questions. There was a family that came to the fire department not too long ago, and they were asking, where can we go to find out information? I wasn't sure if they were asking about a family or a friend, but because I'm speaking about that, I do want to point out an address here. If you are someone who is looking for information about a family member or a friend, we are told that the Highland Park Police Department is the reunification site for family and friends. That's the Highland Park Police Department, and that's at 1677 Old Deerfield Road. 1677 Old Deerfield Road here in Highland Park. That's where you can get the latest information if you are trying to find out information about your family or friends who may have happened to be at this parade. I also did get a chance to speak with some people who attended the parade, and we've been talking all morning long about how everyone has the similar story of, they were obviously in a festive mood here on July 4th, and they thought they were hearing fireworks. And of course, once everyone started getting up and running and ducking for cover, and a lot of these people here at the parade also saw some of these injuries and casualties, they obviously realized at that point that this was a serious situation, and they just took off running. A lot of families separated, a lot of friends that were separated, and I spoke with some witnesses who just described the chaos in that moment. And honestly, I know that you've probably seen a lot of videos on social media at this point. Those videos can be used as evidence. They actually can help the police officers, law enforcement out here look for this shooter. You just never know. So yes, you're sharing them on social media, great, but also make sure you're submitting this information to law enforcement, to the detectives here. Again, that number that you want to reach out to, that you want to call, is 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-CALL FBI. That is where you want to send that information. Don't just post it, don't just talk about it with your friends, but actually give that information to the men and women who are doing the work trying to find this individual, the shooter who is still at large. Not much of a description has been released on this individual, but again, we are expecting an update in just a matter of minutes here. We were told around 2 o'clock. I have not gotten an update on whether or not that will happen right at 2 o'clock. It could be delayed a little bit, but we will continue to stay out here from the Highland Fire Department, Highland Park Fire Department, and bring you the very latest information as we can. Still an active scene out here, a number of police officers and really law enforcement from all over the state. State police out here, and just a moment ago, CPD tweeted that they are assisting, the Chicago Police Department is assisting the Highland Park Police Department in finding this individual. They have a helicopter up in the sky as we speak. We will continue to stay out here and bring you the very latest when we get these press conferences and when we get these updates. For now, I will send it back to you in the studio.
Chris, thanks. A really important point you made about the digital clues that can come from this as police have deployed helicopters, drones. We've seen canines out. Of course, more and more officers coming to that scene to try to piece together who this person is and where they might be.
A digital footprint. I mean, you can think back to the Boston Marathon bombings in 2013. It was pictures that people took from the course of the suspects that helped at least give investigators and detectives a better clue as to who they were looking for, and then try to ascertain where that suspect was located. And we can imagine the same thing here. You've got people pulling out their cell phone cameras to take video of the parade. There's going to be surveillance cameras on businesses. Potentially, they have a good look at who this suspect is, and we'll be able to use that to nail down where they are precisely. We want to get back to some of the people that witnessed this tragedy this morning, hear their stories, what they saw and what they heard. Let's listen up.
We were watching the parade. We heard the gunshots. We started running with the people. I went into one of the stores, tried to break the window to get into one of the stores. The gunshot stopped, and then I picked up my kids and we ran again. I put them in a garbage dumpster, and then I ran back to look for my partner and her daughter, and I saw people shot on the ground and a little boy being carried away by a person that got shot. People, blood, gunshot wounds, and luckily we were able to be reunited and everybody was okay. It was horrible. I mean, my kids were crying. We couldn't believe it. You know, it's just something that you don't expect in this community, and it really touched home. And I don't think my kids or I will feel the same about gatherings like parades. And it's just a shame that this celebration ended up like in such a terrible way.
That witness speaking to us a little bit earlier, probably going to hear a lot more stories just like his about what's changed in everyone's mind and if they feel these kinds of things are safe to go to, because now they have more reason to believe that they're not. And the striking detail from his experience putting his kids in a garbage dumpster to try to protect them from the shots that were coming down from the roof of that building, as we see what many people have left behind as fast as they possibly could. Just sitting on the curb there on Central Avenue, waiting for this parade to come down, enjoying only a few minutes of it before it became the most unenjoyable experience of their lives here in downtown Highland Park.
You don't plan for anything like that. You don't know how you're going to react. You don't know where you're going to go, where you can run to. I mean, think about it. You're trying to get the best spot along the parade route to watch the festivities, to celebrate our nation's independence, to enjoy a show and entertainment with the family. And then something like this happens. There's no way to anticipate or to plan for it. We rely a lot on the police and try to create secure situations and try to maintain a level of safety. And police clearly trying to do the best they can, especially now as they lock down this area in Highland Park as the investigation continues. Just to underscore the point that police have repeated over and over, they believe this was a random incident, but nonetheless, we've seen a number of neighboring cities cancel their celebrations as a result of what's happened in Highland Park today. You see Evanston has canceled their parade, Glenview, Skokie, Deerfield Family Days and Parade, that's canceled, as well as Morton Grove canceling their parade.
And Phil Rogers is with a doctor who was along the parade route. Phil?
Alex, the horror stories that people can tell about what was to be a day of fun. We are with Dr. David Baum, who you were practically at ground zero when the shooting started, correct?
We were maybe 100 yards away from the area where most of the people were hit.
Take me through it. Exactly what happened.
So the parade starts off with a little children's parade. My grandson was walking, pushing his bubble lawnmower with my daughter and my son-in-law and all the other young families from the area. And then the parade started. The police come through, the fire departments come through, a couple, maybe the mayor, and then the Highland Park High School band comes marching through. Unfortunately, they had passed, and then all of a sudden you hear these howitzer type noises coming, pow, pow. I mean, a sound I've never heard before. 10 seconds later, you hear people screaming, bodies down, and everyone starts scattering. All the people that were tragically hurt were either killed or injured were on two corners. And apparently the shooter was up above, and his aim was straight down on these two corners. And the remarkable thing was people did not get hit running, crossing the street, but those two corners is where all the bodies were.
Now, when you got there, what did you see?
So I told my family ran. I sort of stayed back. I don't know, my instinct was just not to leave. I don't know if there was anything, didn't know what I could do, but I wasn't going to leave. So once maybe a couple minutes had gone by and there was no shooting, I went no different than other people. There was a woman who was a nurse. Somebody was a nurse practitioner. There was an ER doctor from Highland Park. I don't know his name. Lauren Schechter, who's a plastic surgeon, was there. And other people were helping. All we could do was hold pressure, apply tourniquets. I started a couple IVs. That's all we could do. I mean, these are the people who had salvageable injuries. The people who were gone were quickly identified by the paramedics because they had horrific injuries, the kind of injuries you probably see in wartime, the kind of injuries that only probably happen when bullets can blow bodies up. And these bodies were gone. They covered them up immediately and went on to trying to get other people out. We helped try to move people to a staging area where the ambulances were coming. That's all we were doing. We didn't, there was only so much that people could do, but,
I think you said earlier when you spoke to us earlier on the phone that one of the people you helped was a young child.
There was a young child there that I was doing a little CPR until the paramedics got there, and he looked horribly injured. I'm not sure exactly the injury, but I mean, people were doing anything they could. It's a mass casualty scene. And there weren't enough people there immediately, but who would have thought, somebody was supposed to open fire with some automatic rifle from a rooftop in a sleepy little town's parade.
Doctor, just let me take you back because I want you to describe to people, you're running over to where this took place. Describe to me when you get there. Where are the people that have fallen? Are they all in a confined area? What did you see when you first got there?
When you got to the two areas, you saw blood everywhere. You saw bodies down. You saw people screaming. You saw massive amounts of blood in the people that were gone. Their injuries were horrific. And then, there were people who had leg injuries and people who couldn't, smaller injuries. I mean, there were a lot of people who got transported who were not in life-threatening situations, but there were a lot of bodies, and who was expecting to need, 15 ambulances on the scene of a Highland Park parade?
Doctor, let me just ask you one last question, and that is, you're down here when the shooter has been shooting, and I understand we are now going to a briefing with the Highland Park Police. We'll go directly to that briefing now at the Highland Park Police Station.
I start out here is I just want to remind everybody that the information we have that's coming out is preliminary. We're trying to give you as much information as we possibly can in a timely way where we're not going to impact criminal investigation, impact the safety of those on the scene actively looking for this individual, or impact the safety of anybody else. So please keep that in mind. Information might change, okay? I'm going to turn it over to the commander. He's going to go over and talk about the initial scene response, what that sounded like, what that looked like.
Greetings, Commander Chris O'Neill, Highland Park Police, last name O'Neill. This morning at 10:14 a.m., Highland Park Police and Fire Department units were on scene for the 4th of July parade that started at City Hall at St. John's by the train station, which ran to Central Avenue and then west to Sunset Park. Around 10:14 p.m., we heard loud reports, which we perceived as gunfire. Highland Park Police parade units immediately ran to the plaza area, the source, to locate and identify the source of the noise and the gunshots and gunfire. We immediately identified that people were down, that we had numerous people injured and shot. We communicated that information with our police dispatch, coordinated a medical response with the fire departments, and began setting up a inner and outer perimeter, and also requested additional outside resources. We established a command post staging area here at the fire station on Central Avenue, and we continue to obtain information or gather information to try to coordinate who was doing the shooting and where that person was last seen. Firearm evidence was located on a rooftop of a nearby business that was secured. Suspect description that we had at the time was broadcasted on the police radio and shared with responding and on-scene units. Highland Park Police and fire personnel began transporting injured parties to the Highland Park Police Departments, and additional resources helped us at the scene. We had an on-scene police commander, which was myself. Our patrol supervisor handled city-wide command for any other incidents, and then we had a commander assigned here at the fire station for the command post.
Most importantly, as far as the investigative aspect goes of this, and this is two-pronged at this time. Number one, we are aggressively looking for the individual who's responsible for the shooting. Number two, we have the criminal investigation that is occurring simultaneously. We're asking anybody with any video surveillance that they may have, please review your cell phones if you were snapping pictures in the area of 2nd and Central today. That could help investigators. They may see something in there that may be useful and allow them to proceed further with the investigation. Any business owners in that area, we're asking, please review your video surveillance. If you have any video surveillance of that area at that time, even if you don't see anything in there, we would love to be able to take a look at that so we can further our investigation. Again, the FBI is working in conjunction with us. We have well over 100 law enforcement officers out here on the scene doing the investigation on one side and doing the apprehension efforts on the other. So this is very active. It's going to remain very active for the time to come. I'll try to answer some questions that I can, but again, please understand we can't give away certain aspects of the investigation. We don't want to negatively impact. We want to arrest the offender and hold him accountable for his actions.
Was the building sealed where the rifle was recovered and it was a statement?
I'm not sure of that right now. None that I am aware of. Certainly investigators are combing through social media to see if there's any clues or any information that they can uncover through social media that might help them with the investigation. So as of now, we have approximately 24 victims that were transported to area hospitals. There's a number of hospitals. Some hospitals did require going on bypass due to receiving traumatic victims and such a high number of them. So hospitals throughout the region, both Lake and Cook County, received patients from this, and their conditions range, some critical, some serious. My understanding as of now is they ran for the gunfire. However, the suspect ceased firing right around that point when they got close. All indications is he was discreet and he was very difficult to see. That's something we're looking at. You know, certainly evidence technicians are going to collect the rounds that were discharged from the firearm. Another thing to remember: this is what is being considered as a very massive scene. It's very large. You have where the shooting took place at 2nd and Central, but as people fled from the area, there's evidence and other things that may have gotten caught on their shoes, kicked around. So it's a very large scene. We're very fortunate to have the support of the FBI, but we're not going to leave any stones unturned. We're going to look at every angle of this throughout the investigation and try to figure it out. As far as ages of the victims, the Lake County coroner will hopefully be here for our 3 o'clock press briefing, and we'll be able to provide some information. What I know as of now, several of the deceased victims unfortunately perished at the scene, and it sounds like one of them was transported to an area hospital where they perished. Again, this is preliminary. Information changes, especially when there's close to 30 people transported to various hospitals. What I'll say right now is it was a high-powered rifle. I can't go into details just yet. We will release that information as soon as we can. We walk a fine line with any criminal investigation where we don't want to provide too much external information that can negatively impact what our detectives are doing. Yeah, it's a very sad situation where it sounds like spectators were targeted, and even those that were marching through. The parade was approximately 3/4 of the way through when the shooting occurred. So very random, very intentional, and a very sad day. We are working really hard to try to pinpoint where they could be. It's I don't want to give bad information. He could be in the city, he could be somewhere else, but we're looking into it. Yeah, it's a very large conglomerate of law enforcement that's working together hand in hand. The Lake County Major Crime Task Force and the FBI are leading the criminal investigation into this, along with Highland Park Police. They are very involved. Highland Park Police led the initial incident response and incident command when this was all rapidly unfolding. As far as the search for the individual, we have enlisted the help of several federal partners. We have the state police, we have NIPUS, we have other SWAT teams that are on the scene here, and all working together to further that aspect as well. We're working as hard as we can. I mean, and we want to make sure that the information we're receiving and putting out is accurate, and that when the individual is apprehended, it's the correct individual. They're working hard. I might be able to provide that a little later. I don't have that right now. Let's do a couple more questions. Sure. My name is Christopher Covelli, Covelli, and I'm the spokesman for the Lake County Major Crime Task Force.
You said earlier that it was up to communities to decide whether it's safe for them to hold gatherings today. Is that because so many police resources are here, or just because?
Well, I think there's a couple reasons, a couple ways communities are going to look at it. Number one, you have a tragic mass act of violence that was random here today at a community event where people were gathered to celebrate, and the offender still has not been apprehended thus far. So, could this happen again? We don't know what his intentions are at this point. So certainly we're not sure of that. And on the other hand, I think there's a lot of communities that are not looking forward to celebrating after something like this happens right in their backyard. As of right now, the information I have is there are 6 deceased. 6.
Do you have any reports of people in the crowd helping those who were injured?
There were, and I'm sure they will come forward in the days to come, but there were a number of heroic actions by members of the community, by police, by first responders that rushed in and immediately tended to the victims, tried to get them help. More to come on that later. Right now, our focus is on the investigation and catching this guy. So, all right. So Highland Park Police has established a family and friends reunification post, and that's at the Highland Park Police Department. So anybody that's looking for somebody or anybody that got lost or separated during the event, they can go there. The reunification is happening there. Again, folks, some people, business owners, employees of businesses have waited in their buildings for police escort. Right now, the SWAT team is escorting people out of those buildings, getting them to safety, and being there for them so they feel comfortable as they're leaving the facility. But 3 o'clock, we'll be back. Thank you, folks.
Chris Cavelli from the Lake County Sheriff's Office updating us on the latest there. Not a whole lot new from their investigation so far, but the biggest takeaway still remains that a shelter in place is in effect in that area in Highland Park, in that region, as they still have not caught the shooter and they're actively looking for him. You see the number at the bottom of your screen here for tips, 1-800-CALL-FBI, and Deputy Cavelli hit on an important point. Any picture that you may not deem to be important or you don't think may show something, go through it again, take a look, send it in if it might show something, especially if it might be from earlier. What we've heard from police is that the shooter appeared to be on the roof near that intersection where this happened at 2nd and Central. It's entirely possible you may have seen this person earlier on in the day before he may have gone up on the roof. So detectives and the FBI, Highland Park Police are looking for any and all clues they can find to try to get some sort of indication of where this person is now.
You wonder if that person ran away, they were on foot, if they got away in a vehicle. Someone might have just happened to snap a picture or taken a video and gotten that crucial piece of evidence that can help detectives as they, number one, try to look for the suspect, but also number two, secure evidence that they can secure a conviction when and if this eventually goes to some sort of a trial. But again, police flooding the zone. They are all over Central Avenue and 2nd Street right now, members of the Highland Park Police Department, police departments across the North Shore from the county, the FBI also on scene, taking part of this investigation. You see the tape up there at the intersection of 2nd and Central, as that one doctor described, is just a gory, awful scene of where this shooting took place.
And we've also heard as well that police, they told us in this last briefing, police were trying to at first get away from the gunshots, take some shelter, try to assess who was wounded or killed before trying to address the shooter, but police just telling us the shooting stopped before police officers had a chance to address that shooter and try to subdue him. He had slipped off of the roof or in some way gotten away from where they thought he was before they had a chance to maybe return fire and try to put this to a quick ending, unlike what we're seeing now here, approaching our 4th hour as this shooting started just around 10:15 this morning. One piece of good news that we are able to share from the Highland Park High School bands, they say the Highland Park High School band all are safe. That are in the band is we are still waiting on some of the biggest pieces of information we don't know is the identities of the people who were killed and injured and their location. You're seeing some sort of procession. Not sure if that is the Highland Park High School band going by in this video here, but multiple witnesses have told us when the band went by around that time, that's when they first heard what many people first thought were fireworks and then the gunshots. And you see immediately what happened to hundreds of people who were sitting along Central Avenue here running for their lives.
The sound of marching band music replaced by the sound of gunshots. And now at the scene, the sound of silence, as Phil Rogers described it. Let's go to Christian Farr there on the scene, because just almost an eerie scene, Christian. You see the chairs, the belongings left behind from what was a festive, joyous event today.
Yeah, good afternoon once again, Stefan. Yes, we're at Central and St. John, and you described it perfectly, a very eerie scene. We're here with law enforcement from several different agencies right here on the parade route. In fact, there was a car in the distance here that was abandoned during the parade. They just towed it away probably 15 or 20 minutes ago. You've got several law enforcement agencies that are here right now. Bannockburn, you've got Vernon Hills. They are supporting Highland Park along. We saw Illinois State Police as well as the FBI. And earlier we saw the FBI escorting what it looked like maybe 2 or 3 children. We're not certain if they got away from their parents during this parade. They might have been in the parade. They did not look like they were injured, and the FBI escorted them down the street on St. John, hopefully to be reunified with their family members. But again, a very eerie situation here. We expected to be celebrating July 4th, people coming out and enjoying music, hot dogs, candy, celebration. And now all of these celebrations in the North Shore and beyond it have now been shut down because of the shooting. I'll step out of the way again so you can just see where this parade route was. You can see the large police presence here as well. We have police officers on the roof, tactical gear. And also there's a drone in the air as well, probably looking for evidence and information because they still have not tracked down the shooter. They have a very vague description of who this shooter might be. And have not been able to track him down just yet. That's why they've got a shelter in place. There's not a lot of people around here right now. They're hoping people stay in their homes until they can track this shooter down. But again, you can see everything that people left behind, from a kid leaving a baby doll. There's a baby chair or a kid's chair, kind of folding chair sitting here. Parents probably set up hours before this parade even happened. Just a terrible scene on a day that is supposed to be a day of celebration, a day when people are off. We heard that the Highland Park band, these shots happened right after that. They are all okay. But again, we do have at least 6 people deceased, more than 20 injured. And of course, that information is still coming out. We may have more injuries. We may, unfortunately, have more deaths. This is an unfortunate situation. It brings me back to Waukesha when that car drove through a parade and those innocent lives were lost during that terrible tragedy. So police investigating this, hoping people can stay away from this scene. But again, large police presence. We've seen canine units, tactical officers with long guns. But again, no movement on chasing anyone. Just hoping to see if they can find some answers in this shooting, guys. Back to you in the studio.
Christian Farr there on the street in Highland Park this afternoon. Alex, you brought this up a little bit ago, talking about Waukesha, and just that sense of vulnerability, the sense that almost you never want to go to an event like this again, despite how joyful and happy it's made us in the past. You just can't help but think about the enormity and the tragedy of what we're seeing here.
Well, July 4th in Highland Park is never going to be the same ever again. Whether they end up doing another parade and deciding to commemorate this in some way a year from now, we'll have to wait and see. But you're going to have people telling stories about this and having horrible memories from this for the rest of their lives. And, you know, we saw in Waukesha how influential and important that parade was to that town. You know, a suburb of Milwaukee who loved doing this Christmas parade every year. It was a thing to look forward to, similar to what we see today. And so many other communities who are feeling this exact same thing, who were not affected by this, but here in Illinois and even beyond, are wondering kind of what the future of their parade will be and what it will look like when they continue to hold it. And of course, here in Highland Park, we're still dealing with the day-to-day, trying to find the person who's responsible for this act. And we're going to just wait and see on the weeks and months and years of legacy that these actions have. And we want to give you that list of other suburbs and other locations who have canceled their celebrations and festivities today: Evanston, Glenview, Skokie, Deerfield, and Morton Grove. And this is out of an abundance of caution for all of these places. There is nothing that would lend any authorities to believe that this would be connected in some way to those celebrations. By all accounts from officials we've gotten, that this is a random act, but we still don't know who this shooter is, why they decided to do something like this, and most crucially right now, where they are and what they plan to do next.
We have a very vague description of the suspect right now, described between 18 and 20 years old, with long dark hair, wearing a blue or white t-shirt. That's really not a lot to go off of. So we say that only because that's what police are giving us at this point in their preliminary briefings, as they really try to figure out all the different aspects of this investigation. But they do have someone they are looking for, and they're looking at evidence, whether it's the weapon that was left at the scene, potentially shell casings there, fingerprints maybe, and then of course we talk about the digital footprints, surveillance video, whether it's from security cameras there or someone who just happened to be snapping a picture on the street.
Something that's probably on a lot of people's mind right now is when you see, and unfortunately we've covered and you at home have witnessed and watched so many of these situations in our country, is many times, though not all, there is some swift resolution to it. There's an arrest, the shooter is killed by police, the shooter dies by suicide. This is different because we don't have any clear resolution to this yet, and everyone in the Highland Park area is understandably on edge and sheltering in place if they're following police orders, because they're worried about going out of their home because of where this person is. And what is probably what we're going to hear in the coming days and weeks from police is, I'm sure, the challenges they faced right after the shots were fired is they were taking shelter for themselves to not be injured, but then also they have to deal with hundreds of people running in every direction for their lives, and how they can identify somebody who was not on the ground with them at the time, because we've heard from police this person was up on the roof. So the fact that they don't have a great description of who they were looking for, I guess the Boston Marathon bombing would be the closest thing. That went
Sure.
a day or so before we got a good description.
The evidence, I mean, they have to go through that, talking to witnesses, looking at surveillance pictures. This could be a while, and I think we ought to give a little patience to the first responders who bravely and courageously ran towards the sound of that gunfire. Also, we heard from that doctor who just happened to be at the parade,
one of many,
and one of many. They rushed in to help. They didn't even have any concern for their own safety or their own lives. They were there to try and help others who were injured and wounded, and potentially will have long-lasting scars from this tragedy in Highland Park. This is truly a sad day for Highland Park, a sad day for our area, and a sad day for the state of Illinois. I want to read a statement from Governor J.B. Pritzker writing today. There are no words for the kind of monster who lies in wait and fires into a crowd of families with children celebrating a holiday with their community. There are no words for the kind of evil that robs our neighbors of their hopes, their dreams, and their futures. That statement from Governor J.B. Pritzker today.
Last update we got from police was just after 2 o'clock. Our Chris Hush was there at the briefing, listening to what officials were saying. And Chris, they were updating us both on the manhunt for this person who they're looking for, and also the recovery and dealing with the injured. What were some of the takeaways that you had from the briefing that just wrapped up?
Right. So, Alex, just to start off here, let's look over the numbers here when it comes to the casualties. Unfortunately, we do have still at least 6 dead at this point. And we were just told by a police officer here that 5 of those individuals were confirmed dead on the scene here quickly after the shooting. And then we have another individual who was taken to a hospital and was pronounced dead at that hospital. So, again, 6 confirmed deceased right now, and we still have about 24 others with various injuries, and they are said to be, many of them, in serious condition. So that's the latest on the victims. At least 6 dead and at least 24 injured seriously there. I also want to talk about what's going on right now. We talk about the police presence that we're seeing here. There are hundreds, literally hundreds of law enforcement officers that are on scene here. We were just told that SWAT teams are actually going into some of the businesses where people are sheltering in place, and they are slowly and carefully escorting them out of their businesses. So at this point, there is an effort to be able to go in and remove some of the individuals from these businesses and the residents there who are people who are still sheltering in place, and they're being taken out, escorted by police officers just to make sure that they are safe. Again, this is still a very active investigation. They are still looking for that shooter. In fact, they also told us that they found a high-powered rifle. I want to make sure I'm saying this right. A high-powered rifle on top of the roof of a business here, presumably where that shooter was during this incident. So they did recover that high-powered rifle. That was all they said on that matter. Of course, still an active investigation. They are being very careful with releasing certain details of this investigation here. As far as a family reunification center, a family and friends reunification center, that is being held right now at the Highland Police Department. That's where you can go to find information about friends and family members who you're trying to find at this time. We also know that here at the Highland Park Fire Department, this is where they're doing the press conferences, and we are told that the next update will be at about 3 o'clock. So it looks like they're doing this every 30 minutes to an hour at this time. And again, they're being very careful with what they can release. The FBI, of course, involved in this investigation right now, and they are still actively looking for the shooter. You stated it yourself, Alex. There are very little details on who they are trying to find. We wish we could put more information out But right now, all we know at this point is that this is a man in his 20s who they're looking for. And that's really all of the information that they're putting out about this shooter. Something else I want to point out, and we've talked about this before, but they really highlighted this during the last press conference. They're telling anyone, businesses with surveillance video, spectators who have cell phone video that they're posting, to social media right now, make sure that you're submitting that to authorities as well. Even if you didn't capture any pictures or any video of the actual incident, of the chaos, you never know what you caught on that picture or on that video prior to the shooting that may be able to help law enforcement as they go through this investigation. The investigation doesn't end when they eventually, hopefully, capture this shooter here. Of course, this is going to continue for the foreseeable future. So they are pleading with anyone who has any kind of information, like a picture, like video, whether it was before the parade or during, to submit that. You can also call 1-800-CALL-FBI. That is the official line that they want you to call to submit these tips to them to help them with this investigation.
Especially
Again,
if people were near that Ross cosmetics store, which is where police think that shooter was. That was the roof near 2nd and Central. So if anybody was at the parade, know that they were near 2nd and Central at some point, even before the parade started, because I think what's going to be crucial for police is, because they don't have a great description, seeing what this person looked like before they went on the roof. Because if there's no coverage of the roof and there's no cameras up there, if they see somebody that fits that description and they can get a better look, as we're seeing with some video of some children, looks like being evacuated or moved here to a secure area.
Live pictures we're seeing here, again, so many people getting separated as they ran for their lives. These look almost like they might have been part of the parade. Now slowly being reunified with parents and loved ones. We talked about people sheltering in place, and so often we've seen this in mass casualty, mass shooting incidents. People just hide. They go into a closet, they hide in a store. They wait there patiently, wait for the shooting to stop or wait for police to come and get them. And as it appears, we're still seeing that this afternoon.
We talked with the woman as well, hiding in a pancake house until it was safe. Some other news that we have to step away from this to cover because it is a life-threatening situation in its own right. Paul Diano joining us now with a tornado warning. Paul?
Yeah, guys, we have talked about the threat for severe weather on July 4th afternoon and evening, and it is coming to fruition. There are not widespread thunderstorms right now, but there is one severe thunderstorm which has rotation, enough so being picked up by our radar that there is a tornado warning in effect for southwest LaSalle County until 3:15. Here are the details. If you live near one of these towns, I know it's the holiday, I know there's a lot going on. It is time to get to your safe place right now in southwest LaSalle County. This is happening primarily south of Interstate 80 and south of the city of Peru, but these are some of the locations being picked up right now. Cedar Point, within the next few minutes, this broad area of rotation will be near you. If you live in or around Cedar Point, get to your basement, center of your basement, or center first floor room with no windows now. This is not a drill. This is an active tornado warning in southwestern LaSalle County. Some other places are Farm Ridge, somewhere generally near the city of LaSalle by about 3 o'clock. And Tunica looking at 254, Oglesby by 259. The time right now is 2:35. We are looking at a radar indicated tornado. There is no active confirmation or visual confirmation that a tornado is on the ground, but sometimes we begin to see this rotation picked up on the radar before it's actually picked up with eyeballs on the ground. So what we have right now is a radar indicated tornado warning for southwest LaSalle County until 3:15. This is a rotation detector, something that we have here at NBC5 that is exclusive in the market. It can actually pick up specific areas and specific parts of an individual storm that show whether there is active rotation or not. Kind of what we're talking about with the radar indicated part of a radar indicated tornado warning. We have the green color is weak, When you begin to see the brighter shades of green or perhaps some red, that is strong. And if you remember Brant showing you this last year with the Naperville tornado, we were into the yellow category. Thankfully, we're not seeing that right now, but we do have, guys, a radar indicated tornado warning for rural southwest LaSalle County until 3:15. If we get any new information, we will bring it to you. There's a lot going on news-wise today, so we're going to head back to you guys for now. But watch out, southwest LaSalle County, basement right now, or first floor room with center windows, active radar indicated tornado warning for that part of LaSalle County. Back to you.
Paul Deanna, it is a busy afternoon. We're following this weather situation, also following an active manhunt right now on the North Shore for the person responsible for shooting multiple people at a 4th of July parade. We've confirmed 6 are dead. 24 people injured, varying degrees of injuries taken to local hospitals after this shooting.
And important to know, we will get back with Paul soon if there is information that people in LaSalle County need to know. We are keeping an active eye on that storm, but checking in again in Highland Park as the shelter in place is still in place for this man who is assumed to be armed and dangerous after opening fire on the 4th of July parade along Central Avenue. The police presence there has increased as the day has gone on. We've seen canines, drones, police officers on roofs, and a helicopter as well deployed. NBC5's Phil Rogers is in the heart of it all on Central Avenue. Phil, what have you seen there?
Yeah, Alex, in fact, just to add to that, just before you came to me, 2 uniformed ATF agents just got in their vehicle behind us here and left the scene. Of course, the ATF critical to this investigation right now. They will run a rapid trace of the rifle that was recovered from the rooftop, which we're going to show you here in just a moment. They'll run a rapid trace of that rifle through the ATF Tracing Center in Martinsburg, West Virginia. And they will try to determine a few things. Number one, where was that rifle first sold? When was the point that it left the chain of the manufacturing and distribution chain and got into the hands of its first owner? And then after that, they will try to determine if it was ever resold or possibly who might have been in possession of that rifle. And so again, that happens very fast when they have a mass shooting, even though it's a rather archaic system, which we've shown you on the air. It's literally a paper system that they use to trace those weapons. I want you to see something over here. Look here. I spoke to you earlier about a moment frozen in time. Here's where children were watching this parade, this little butterfly chair. I want to show you how close that child was to the shooting. Look over my shoulder here, go down the street. You'll see a stop sign there with flashing red lights. That's 2nd Street. That's where people were starting to fall, right there across the street. And if you look over to the left across the street, you'll see the building there at the corner of 2nd and Central, and that is where they believe the gunman was shooting from the roof. We talked to Dr. David Baum on the air in the last hour, and he told you about tending to the casualties out there. And as he talked to me after our interview, he said it was his impression that the gunman was not directly up over the street, but possibly back on that building, more on 2nd Street, maybe a little bit north of Central, firing down. He said he had an unparalleled viewpoint of the corner where the majority of the casualties fell. Now, to amplify what Paul said on the air just a moment ago, and he mentioned the tornado warning for LaSalle County. No such severe weather up here in Highland Park, but it is starting to rain. And you see all of those evidence technicians up there working, and that's what they're doing up there behind us. They are scouring the scene, looking for clues. And they're doing that because, among other things, they need the evidence and they need it fast, but they don't want anything to get washed away. Alex.
Thank you, Phil. And we've heard from so many witnesses over the course of today. Our whole news team there on the scene in Highland Park trying to speak to as many people as they can. We've heard so many different accounts, including a woman who was right near that cosmetics store across the street at Uncle Dan's, which is the outerwear store, that was next door. She hid around that area and then to the Pancake House near store. She was talking about dropping her kids, picking them up because she was running as fast as she could. Let's hear from another witness now who was there along the parade route.
We were just, like any normal family and just trying to enjoy the parade, and all of a sudden, we just heard a bunch of shooting, and everybody started running and yelling. And, you know, it was just a scary thing. I got separated from him and I ran with my daughter and she was scared. I was trying to find a place to hide with her. And we eventually started running and we went to the nearest place, which was McDonald's in Highland Park. And we were there until, you know, my cousin was able to pick us up and to bring us to a secure place to stay. A little shaken. I was scared for, you know, my children, and it was just crazy experience. You know, you don't expect it. You know, it's Highland Park, and nowadays you don't feel safe now anywhere.
And she spoke to this woman talking about trying to stay with her family that she was with. We heard that from so many other witnesses who were there on the scene. The Highland Park Police Department is the reunification center, 1677 Old Deerfield Road. If you're looking for someone, or they may be looking for you, if you can get in contact with them that way. But just so many panicked scenes, so many panicked stories, trying to get away as fast as you can with the people that you're with.
I think Phil really brought it home when he showed us that chair, that bright colored kids chair. You think of how many children witnessed this horrific event, how many children were potentially involved in this, families separated, running from the gunshots, trying to get away, trying to find safety. Now that reunification process is beginning. We've seen a couple people slowly brought out, escorted by members of the police department, members of the FBI on scene. And this, we're also seeing officers with long rifles on the scene there, acting as if this is still not over, because again, we do not know where this suspect is. The suspect is at large at this hour, so police are really trying to knuckle down on the evidence that will help them in a prosecution, but also try to ascertain where the gunman is located. And they are really allocating as many resources as they can to answer that question, to make sure they can secure that suspect and bring them into custody.
Treating that suspect as armed and dangerous at the moment. Let's turn now to Chris Coffey, who is at Highland Park Hospital, been keeping track of all the admittance and where people have been going from this scene since the shooting first happened just after 10 o'clock. Chris?
That's right, Alex. A lot of the victims from this morning's shooting at the parade have been transported to the hospital right behind me. It's North Shore Systems Highland Park Hospital. At least 24 people they are seeing for various types of injuries. Now, the hospital does say that the majority of the injuries that they're treating are gunshot injuries, but some of the injuries were resulting from the ensuing chaos after the gunshots rang out. So that could be anything from tripping and falling. We just don't know at this point. But most of the injuries they are treating, they say, are for gunshots. The hospital says that as soon as they got word of this, they mobilized 20 additional physicians and extra nurses and other medical support staff. They also say that they have crisis workers and social workers here at the hospital to help friends and family members with any help they need at this point. Now, earlier today, we spoke to a woman. One of her relatives was injured. She actually had fallen and scraped her leg pretty badly, but she's doing okay. This woman named Gabriella was at the parade when the gunshots rang out. She described just chaos as it happened, people scrambling for safety. She said two people near her suffered gunshot wounds, and they sought shelter inside a nearby business. She said she helped a 90-year-old woman who was about to fall on the ground. She said she was there to kind of catch her before this elderly woman hit her head on the concrete. The good news is Gabriella's niece is doing okay right about now. We also wanted to let you know that other hospitals in the area have received some patients, including the North Shore Hospital in Evanston. They received about 5 patients. And we're also hearing from the Northwestern Hospital in Lake Forest. They tell NBC5 that out of the 8 people who were admitted to that hospital, 4 have been treated and released so far. Most of those patients were gunshot victims, and a spokesperson for the hospital system says they are all in good to fair condition. That is the latest from the Northwestern Hospital in Lake Forest. So the hospital behind me in Highland Park is closed to visitors right now. No one could get in or out unless, I would assume, family or friends, but we just don't have that confirmed at the moment. They are treating about 24 people at the time. Reporting live outside Highland Park Hospital, I'm Chris Coffey, Now back to you.
Okay, Chris, yeah, we've been hearing varying degrees of severity of these injuries. Everything, as you mentioned, Chris, from people that were hurt in the ensuing escape, trying to run and maybe scraping or falling or hurting themselves, to gunshot wounds, whether that be a ricochet graze to actual penetrating gunshot wounds. We're still trying to figure out more about some of the injured who may be critically injured after this shooting in Highland Park this morning. Following the investigation, the manhunt that's going on right now, but we also have some breaking weather news right now.
Yeah, Paul Diano checking in on that tornado warning. Paul?
Hey guys, we are setting the stage here with a wide shot before we talk about what's going on in LaSalle County. Chicago, rain moving through. Highland Park, light rain moving through. That is not the severe weather. The severe weather that we're seeing is an extreme southwestern LaSalle County, well to the south and west of Chicago, and not moving toward the urban core. This is pushing to the south and east. That said, it is an active radar-indicated tornado warning, which will not expire for another 29 minutes. I'm checking the time here. It says 2:46. This will expire at 3:15. Lots of boxes, lots of lines here. This blinking red box, that is the active tornado warning, including Tonica, including Farm Ridge and Kangley. Pretty rural area, south of Interstate 80, south of Ottawa, southwestern LaSalle County. We're looking at a BTI index on a 1 to 10 scale. The higher that number is, the higher the threat is for a tornado to actually get on the ground. That is currently at 2.7. We've seen higher, but it's not zero. We've also seen, with this green you see right here, weak rotation being picked up by our radar in this specific spot, and this is moving to the south and east. The blue polygons that you see, the blue lines, that was an original severe thunderstorm warning, which was upgraded to a tornado warning, and there is a new severe thunderstorm warning, including Streeter, in south central and southeast LaSalle County. That will not expire until 3:30. But there is an active tornado warning right now in southwestern LaSalle County. Every couple minutes we get some new data, and that little area right there just to the east of Interstate 39 near the town of Lustant, that is an area with some weak to strong rotation. Now, is that a tornado on the ground? We do not have any visual confirmation, but it's an indication from our radar that we are seeing increased rotation in that one spot in extreme southwestern LaSalle County. Tornado warning expires at 3:15. So you live here, what do? You probably have gone through this several times before, but we're here to remind you and keep you safe. If you have a basement, that's where you should be right now, and you should frankly be listening to me and my voice on some type of radio or the NBC5 weather app, which you can download right now and take us with you into the safe spot of your house. If you do not have a basement, first floor of your house, pick a closet or a bathroom or somewhere near the center of your house, as far away from all the windows and as close to the middle of your house as possible. That is your safe spot. It is time in southwest LaSalle County to get into that safe spot. So we're looking at this tornado warning expiring not for another about 27 minutes or so. You can also see that it's not just one place we're looking at. This is kind of a broad area of weaker rotation. What we're looking for are there any specific spots that begin to pop up that have stronger rotation, which could be indicating something trying to make it to the ground, either as a funnel cloud or as an actual tornado. We get updates from the National Weather Service whenever events like this happen. As soon as they get visual confirmation of a tornado on the ground, they pass it along to us. As of right now, we do not have that visual confirmation. But a radar-indicated tornado warning, southwest LaSalle County. I want to qualify this once again. It's not heading toward Cook County or Will County or DuPage County. It is diving to the south and east. But if you live in this specific spot of rural LaSalle County, get to your safe spot and plan on being there for the next 20 to 25 minutes. We will keep you updated. If we get confirmation there's a tornado on the ground, we will let you know. Otherwise, get into and stay in your safe spot in LaSalle County for at least the next 20 to 25 minutes. Back to you.
All right, Paul, thank you. And a very good reminder to download the NBC Chicago app, and you can look at that radar. But Paul will come back on the air if there is an update. Let's take one more look now at downtown Highland Park as we kind of recap what happened as we now approach almost 5 hours since the shooting started in downtown Highland Park at the 4th of July parade. You see on your screen 6 killed, 24 injured. What we do not yet know is who those people are, who they were, and where exactly this happened in the scene you're looking at here of 2nd Street and Central Avenue in downtown Highland Park. There was a kids' bicycle parade that kicked off the festivities this morning, everything starting normally at 9:30 today, and then the parade in full starting at 10 o'clock. Multiple witnesses have told us, you see the video here that has been sent in to us as the parade has started. Many people thought it was fireworks that they were first hearing near the intersection that we just showed you, and very quickly heads turning, people looking up, standing up, and running for their lives to try to flee this shooting. And most importantly, that shooter is still at large. There is a shelter in place. If you're in the Highland Park area, you are being told to stay at home and let the police do their work. If you have any tips, 1-800-CALL FBI.
Reaction pouring into this tragedy in Highland Park. Let's go to NBC5's political reporter Marianne Ahern joining us now. As so many people are focusing on what happened today and what comes next from this.
Stefan and Alex, like so many folks, I have tried to enjoy my 4th of July holiday until all of this happened. And have to tell you, I had attended a parade with my grandchildren. It sounds so similar to Highland Park bicycles, just fun. It just is heartbreaking to hear what happened there. And we have been monitoring the reaction of political leaders throughout the state, including Governor Pritzker and his Republican opponent, Darren Bailey. Governor Pritzker had planned to march in the Evanston parade for the 4th of July, canceled after what happened in Highland Park, released a statement in part saying, "There are no words for the kind of monster who lies in wait and fires into a crowd of families with children celebrating a holiday with their community. There are no words for the kind of evil that robs our neighbors of their hopes, their dreams, and their futures." I have to paraphrase for now Darren Bailey's statement. He also issued a statement. He was just about to participate in the Skokie 4th of July parade. He as well offered prayers, said that this was a horrific incident. He did offer those prayers and hoped that we would go on and celebrate in some way, but that is going to be quite difficult for anyone in that area or even surrounding much further. The whole Chicago area is mourning, including Mayor Lightfoot. She issued a statement. She offered her support. Chicago police are there. The Chicago police helicopter is participating, as well as staffing to help. Her statement from Mayor Lightfoot: "The tragedy unfolding in Highland Park is devastating. I have been in contact with Mayor Rotering and have offered our support, and the Chicago Police Department is providing assistance. We grieve with the families of the deceased and injured, as well as the entire Highland Park community." Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle has also offered a hand to Lake County, where Highland Park is a part of Lake County, ready to support our neighbors to the north in any way we can. She was more forthright about gun violence. Preckwinkle saying, quote, we all must focus on stemming the flow of illegal guns and implementing common sense gun laws. My continued thoughts are with the families and loved ones who have lost someone, and for everyone is struggling and to comprehend today's latest senseless act of gun violence. I did speak to Governor Pritzker's team, who tells me, of course, he is monitoring the situation. We know the Illinois State Police is there, as well have just learned federal agents, including those from the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, have been called to the scene. Pritzker is not going to the scene at this point because it is such a fluid situation and it is not yet wrapped up in finding the shooter. Of course, though, he is keeping an eye on all that is going on. For now, reporting live, Marianne Ahern, NBC5 News.
Okay, Marianne, we appreciate that perspective from our elected leaders chiming in, offering their perspectives in the wake of this shooting. We take you back live to the scene on Central Avenue near 2nd Street in downtown Highland Park, a street that is literally flooded with police officers right now. Officers armed with long guns, securing the scene, going door by door. At first, for a while, they're trying to see if there were any injured or hiding people inside those stores and businesses. It appears that's all clear at this point. But but they are also keeping their guard up because we do not know where the shooter is at this point. Let's get up to Mike Lorber in Sky 5. Mike, I know you have to keep your distance from the scene, but tell us from that perspective in the air what you're seeing as part of this manhunt.
Let's talk about that police response. There's a 5-mile flight restriction due to that. You talked about Chicago police had their helicopter at the scene earlier, helping out drones as well. So they're keeping us 5 miles away. We're near Lake Forest, looking south down Green Bay Road on a massive police response. Not only at the scene of the shooting, we've seen some officers with guns on rooftops nearby. Another thing to keep in mind, there are officers who set up what they call a perimeter. So they're still looking for this shooter. As Chris Covelli from the Lake County Major Crime Task Force said, they set up a perimeter. Basically, their job is to secure any exit route that they think is possible. That is a massive response. Shutting down roads, shutting down train lines, shutting down any areas or paths that they think the person they are looking for may have a route to escape. You talked about people who are hiding. I heard a dispatch a little while ago nearby Sunset Foods, a massive grocery store. A lot of people hiding inside. They just evacuated that building a while ago, taking a lot of people out of what police refer to as the hot zone into safety. And again, I want to emphasize, because of that, they may still find people who are hiding. So those tragic numbers we have as far as number of fatalities and a number of people injured, there is always a chance that could increase because a lot of searching ongoing, not only for the shooter or people who have been impacted or injured or hiding from this scene, they still may be out there even though we are several hours past this event. A lot of things canceled in the area. There were other 4th of July parades. I'm now getting word a lot of fireworks celebrations nearby tonight have been canceled, not only due to this shooting, but weather, as we've been talking about, may be a factor as well. So if you're thinking about anywhere really in the area heading out to a 4th of July fireworks celebration, you'll want to check with your local municipality beforehand to see if that is canceled. Of course, here in Highland Park, where we're looking down on, police still emphasizing everybody shelter in place. This is still an active scene. They still have not found this shooter at this time. We're reporting live north of Highland Park. Mike Lorber in Sky 5.
Mike, thanks so much. And we want to turn to Chris Hush in just a second, who is waiting another briefing. Officials have promised about every hour that they will be updating us on the investigation. And Chris, so many people, as Mike just touched on, who are sheltering in place, would like some sort of update or anything that could give them some sort of comfort, because the last known location we have for this shooter is where all the carnage took place downtown. And maybe they're withholding some information that we shouldn't know because they're on the trail, but so many people are waiting to hear for some kind of update and if they can leave their house and if this will get any positive resolution.
Right, and you just said it the best way there. That's exactly what law enforcement was telling us earlier. They do have to just be careful with what kind of information, what details, specific details that they release, because not only is this an active investigation, but yes, there is still a shooter at large right now, and they are working and with so many different departments trying to find the location of this shooter. This, where I'm standing right now, this is the Highland Park Fire Department. You'll see behind me where the microphones are. This is where we've been getting those updates every 30 minutes to an hour. The next one is scheduled for 3 o'clock. Of course, that can change depending on what's going on behind the scenes here. But every 30 minutes to an hour, we are getting little nuggets of information as they progress. But at the last press conference, they did tell us, anyone who has any video, any pictures, make sure that you're submitting that, because that is literally, as those pictures, as that evidence comes in, that can literally help them right now. So if you're holding onto those pictures, instead of just posting them to social media, actually submit them to law enforcement. I know we've said the number so many times this morning and this afternoon, but again, the number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. 1-800-CALL-FBI is the number that you want to reach out to for those tips. Again, the next press conference is expected to start really in just a few minutes here. And again, we expect to hear from the law enforcement officer